Welcome to Through the Looking Glass. Today's guest we have on Nick Grasso. He's the 1st District City Councilman here in Elmira, New York, and he's also the owner and operator of First Class Auto Detailing. And real quick, before we get into everything, I'll hand it on over to Russ.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Through the Looking Glass podcast. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Find us on every social media that you can. Smash that rumble button if you would. It really helps with the algorithm. Comment, of course, on everything because that matters now too. Even if you don't like us, comment. Let us know that we're stinky, filthy poo-poo heads. Just let us know what's going on. If you want to talk to us about anything or be guests at some point, reach us on our Facebook page, talk about it, share it with your friends. Just be a part of the conversation.
All right, so we have Nick Grasso here. Nick, if you want to go ahead and just give us a small introduction about yourself. Tell us what you do.
Nick Grasso, born and raised Elmira, 33 years. Pretty proud of that. I own and operate an auto detailing business for over 11 years here in Elmira. First class, as Adam mentioned. Raising 2 boys here, and just want to give back to my community and make it a better place for future generations.
Awesome. So the first question I got jotted down for you here is, what inspired you to get involved in local government and run for a position in city council?
That's a loaded question, but short and sweet, passionate about the place that we all call home. I had a fairly good upbringing here. Always have seen a lot of issues that, we all discuss, we all feel. And instead of just talking about it, I felt like I had to put my money where my mouth was and step up and do something. So ran in 2019, got elected, and, it's really about public service for me and giving back. It's not about self-enrichment that we see so much at the state and the national levels. Yeah.
All right. So the next question I have is, can you provide an overview of your role and responsibilities as city councilman and how you represent the interest of your constituents?
Yeah, so overview. What is a city councilman, a council member? There's 6 of them for the 6 districts across the city. It's the legislative branch of government. Mayor's the executive, and city court system being the judicial. So what do? We pass local laws, local ordinances, everything from, code to voting to override the state property tax levy, local policy, financial oversight, constituent service is probably the biggest thing. You call, let's say, the city manager or the code director, or your dog gets loose and you have to deal with animal control, and you don't have maybe a favorable or desirable outcome or experience with that. You reach out to your council person, engage them, let them know what's going on, and hopefully they can help give you some resolve to the issue that you're experiencing.
Okay.
So you have your hands full.
Yeah, I mean, we're under the current city charter, we have a city manager style of government. Essentially, he's like the CEO or COO. He handles day-to-day operations of everything going on in the city, and we're more or less like a part-time oversight body, like a board of directors per se. I don't know if we'll get into that or not, but I don't think that that's always currently the best style of government here locally, especially considering when we started the city manager style of government, the population, industry, economics, it was much different than it is today.
Okay, so in your opinion, what do you think the best style of government would work for a city like Elmira?
In my opinion, I would like to see more of a strong arm mayor is what it's called, where you have a mayor that's elected and he's or she's solely responsible for the day-to-day operations, and periodically, in this case, 4-year terms, they're directly accountable to voters and residents and taxpayers, as opposed to someone who is appointed to carry out those functions on a day-to-day basis.
So does that mean the mayor we have now doesn't have the power, as much power as you would like him to have?
Yeah, so essentially how it currently works is the mayor is like the chairperson of council, so he more or less controls what makes it onto an agenda. He does retain some traditional executive branch powers that we're all familiar with, But essentially how it works now is mayor appoints city manager, and then council either confirms or denies that appointment.
So our current mayor, you said he was appointed?
No, so the mayor is elected just like council
Okay.
people.
Okay.
City manager is appointed.
The
So
city
who actually
manager.
has more power, the mayor or the city manager?
The mayor,
Okay.
then the city manager, and then what it feels like a whole bunch of other different people except for council. But we should be
Okay.
right up there next to the mayor unilaterally or equally with the mayor. But unfortunately, in my past experience, we just haven't had that.
So for people that are politically uninitiated, don't really know how all of this works, you said to reach out to your district's councilman. How would somebody in town reach out to you guys?
Yeah, so city website, cityofelmira.net. All of us, the mayor, and then all 6 council people right on there, pictures, emails, personal phone numbers. That'd be your first step. Could always come to a council meeting. I like to see that. Council people should be having district town halls periodically. And just a little shameless self-plug here. I've had more town halls to date than all city officials combined.
How are those turnouts for you?
We consistently get about a dozen people. So it's not overwhelmingly, but it's also not just the same few people in the room, having the same discussions on a monthly basis.
Okay.
So the next question I got jotted down here is, what do you think are the most pressing issues facing our city, and how would you plan to address them during your tenure on the council?
Yeah, so I'm going to indirectly answer that, but I want to answer the obvious ones that we all see, like the homelessness, right?
Yep.
Lack of economic development. That's really where all these problems lie, so I want to circle back to that. Crime, safety. People always want to have at least the sense or presentation of safety, whether that's, a genuine feeling or not,
Right.
Open to interpretation and perspective, I suppose. But I think all of those top 3 issues all come back to economic development. When there's economic opportunity and prosperity for everybody, people aren't excessively using drugs. They're not depressed. They're not angry. They're not out causing crimes just to survive, because they can provide for themselves or their families or their loved ones. So the lack of economic development, I think, if not all of our problems are rooted in the lack of that.
Yeah, look at downtown Elmira. It used to be 20 years ago, every spot was filled. Now you have every other 3, 4, 5 spots. There's so many vacant lots.
Mm-hmm. Downtown is on the up and up.
Yeah, I have noticed.
But
that
we have to give some credit. We've had tens of millions of dollars of influx of state and federal economic development money. DRI we hear about all, which is an acronym that stands for Downtown Revitalization Initiative. So there is a lot of positive progress being made downtown, but it is, I think, artificially propped up through Fed and state monies.
Yeah, for sure.
So a question, because you did mention the homeless issue. And, I was talking to my own mom about this earlier. What do you do about the homeless people that don't want help? Like, what do you do with them?
Right now, and round table conversation, I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a, addiction or substance abuse expert. Personally and politically, I don't believe in using force, right? Forcing people against their will to do things that they don't want to do. There are laws at the state level that, if I don't have the mental capacity to do what's best for Nick, if I'm homicidal or suicidal,
5150.
Yes.
Yeah.
People can be under that law, forced into going and at least getting an assessment down at, BSU.
72-hour evaluation.
Yeah. So more realistically, I think what we could do to address it is, according to Catholic Charities in the county and the city, there's about 300 people that are in these, displaced or homeless populations. Right now, the best answer seems to be, and I'm not advocating for it, but putting these people up in hotels that, county taxpayers, we all foot the bill for. I recognize there's an immediate need to get housing and shelter. So, especially this time of year, we're talking about, code blue, which is below freezing. It's just not sustainable, especially the financial aspect of it. Catholic Charities just opened up their, I believe, 50-bed dormitory-style shelter, which is over a year overdue. They've, experienced a lot of hiccups and stuff, so I give them credit for that and don't want to completely slight them. But even 50 beds only addresses a sixth of the homeless or displaced population here locally. So we need to get creative. We need to do other things. For a long time, I've really been a staunch advocate for tiny houses.
I was just thinking that.
We see them up. We've seen them for 15, 20 years.
And they're so inexpensive.
Yeah. Behind Guidi's Body Shop, headed north on Route 13 in Ithaca. And he started with a couple. He's got a whole small, community there with a, central, office or community room there. And, I can only, as an observer, think that that's worked. It's been successful. So why not implement that here locally? And if that even addresses another 10 or 15 or 20% of the issue, it's just another piece to the puzzle.
Is there any good plots of land that either the city owns or that someone would be willing to donate to the city to be able to build these homes?
Absolutely. On all fronts. I mean, look at all the recent tragedies of house fires. People, unfortunately, because of the economic climate, not just locally in Elmira, but because of the state, we all know, can't afford to rebuild. They don't have the means or the resources, or going through a traumatic event like that, they might not have the emotional or mental capacity for it. And how can you not blame them, right? Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with any sort of traumatic event like that. But these houses get demolished and they come off the tax roll, which, pushes the burden towards the people still here paying. They're picking up the slack, per se. So, there's tons of vacant lots, city-owned, privately owned, and I'm sure the city would love to sell them and put them back on the tax roll and expand the tax base.
So as far as homeless shelters go, is the one that Catholic Charities just made, is that the only one we have, or?
Yeah, to my knowledge, I mean, there's some other really great, local non-for-profits. One's not too far from here, His Haven on Spalding Street. They don't necessarily have a shelter, but they do provide a space where you can at least come in and, improve your hygiene, take a shower, wash your clothes.
Okay.
There's a food pantry there. Cool. They also, accept donations for, furniture and housewares where, once someone does get a residency set up, that's so expensive nowadays that, need a couch or a dining room table or maybe some, kitchen utensils or something to, just live life.
Just in the last 3 years alone, we've all noticed the cost of everything has gone up 20% for all of us around the world, or in this country at least. So, yeah, I could definitely see that. So one of the issues I see, kind of looking way further into the future, right? You brought up the tiny houses and things like that. I absolutely agree with the homeless issue that we've all witnessed here in Elmira. It is a problem, and these people do deserve help. Do you see that there being a possibility in the future where if we do offer such subsidies for people, where, hey, you don't have a job, you don't have a house, we'll provide it for you? Do you see that being taken advantage of?
I mean, I don't see why not. I also see the other side of it where some people don't want the help, right? And you can't force them. But I think a lot of people, if you gave them a real tangible, real life opportunity to improve their circumstances, I can't help but to think they would take advantage of it, right? And I always try to level myself down and humble myself, right? I think really everybody, unless you're like the 1%er, we're all just that one life crisis away from that being a reality.
Yeah, a lot of people are one paycheck away from, if they miss one paycheck, they could be on the streets.
Yeah, and that's the reality that all the rest of the 99% of us, we live with, right? So if I was ever downtrodden in that position and someone gave me an opportunity, like, okay, here's shelter, and here's a food voucher or SNAP benefits, food stamps, whatever. Sure. And then, hey, here's a trade or a skilled, labor job where we're going to pay you not just minimum wage, but a livable wage where you can just not afford these things that you're now temporarily being subsidized for you, but you can provide it on your own. And then once you get to that point, wow, I enjoy photography or cars or music. You'll have some disposable income to go do some things you enjoy, because that's what life's about for all of us, right?
I absolutely agree with that with the education for trade education, absolutely. So I'm absolutely for building some kind of small commune or tiny houses, as you put it, but with the contingency of a time limited, like we will offer you this house with the utensils you need, food vouchers, but you have 365 days to get on your feet. After that, we did what we could, and now it's on you.
Yeah, understood. I mean, there's so many supportive services out there between, county social services and other not-for-profits. I don't think it would be unreasonable to put it on some sort of timeline, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or case by case. I completely agree because we face, like so many other places, the stress of people getting the subsidies, and then it becomes a lifestyle instead of just a stepping stone to, the higher places that we all aspire to be.
Is there any little like small jobs that the city could have some of these homeless people do, like in the situation where we give them the small houses, if they're not able to find a job, just something as small as like going around a certain area of the city, picking up some trash or cleaning something up, even something like that to be able to stay where they're staying until they can get on their feet?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's one possibility. And I'll extend on that. Seasonally, we hire, a bunch of human beings in the summertime to mow and maintain the parks and all this green space that we have here. Why not, instead of giving the job to a retired, hey, you're my buddy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was probably in some form of government, state, federal, county, a municipality. Why don't we give it to someone who actually needs it, who doesn't already have a pension and worked a long life, career that they get a retirement from? So yeah, there's absolutely opportunities. I know sometimes, the city's stressed with manpower to even run a street sweeper. There was a time that we all lived in where the street sweepers would foul the garbage and recyclable trucks behind him because this thing spilled out. It got cleaned up right behind it. But most people tell me, hey, Nick, I haven't seen the street sweeper once this year in my neighborhood. I was just going to say that.
I haven't seen a street sweeper in maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I used to chase that thing around on my bike when I was a kid.
It's definitely been...
Because you wanted to be the guy driving it or what?
No, I just used to like chasing it around or like trying to find it on garbage days. It was a thing me and my buddy Mike used to do.
It's definitely been months. I could see some bureaucratic hang-up with trying to employ homeless because there is paperwork, of course, that's involved with it. But like you had said, instead of giving it to retired people, give it to the, it's hard to do that because that doesn't grease the wheels for certain people, which is one of the problems I think we all see in our current climate in our country. So
agreed. So one answer to your rebuttal, right? We employ a lot of our sanitation workers through a temp agency because there is high turnover. There is a people cost associated with that. So, before someone gets hired on a permanent employee basis, we hire through a temp agency. We could do the same thing that way.
I like it,
So I was going to skip ahead to the seventh question I had on here because it kind of ties into the last one about the city's economy. And it's just what strategies does the city have in place to promote economic development and create job opportunities within the city?
So I'm going to answer this question maybe round circle again. We have STEG, Southern Tier Economic Growth, which is a state regional development agency. And then we have the Chemung County IDA, Chemung County Industrial Development Agency. Those are really the two agencies, I suppose, that are charged with economic development here in Chemung County and the city. But that's not to say the city does absolutely nothing. One thing that I see and that we have to periodically vote on to renew or not, and it just happened, I think my first year on council, 2020. Don't quote me on that. But we have these things called pilots, which are payment in lieu of taxes. It's an acronym, pilot. So let's say
this country loves acronyms for everything.
I like them from the Marine Corps, so I can get down with any acronym.
Yeah, so pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. Let's say essentially you had a commercial property where your full tax assessment might be, $20,000 on an annual basis. Well, you're going to come to town, Mr. Joe Schmo, corporation owner, and you're going to employ, 20 people to start, right? So employing 20 people, again, quality job, skilled labor, livable wages, They're going to buy homes here. They're going to, use professional services, retail, restaurants. Hopefully they're going to use a, local financial institution when they go to get a car loan or the house loan. So that ripple effect of those 20 jobs here by you employing them, because, you've got this vehicle, we're going to give you a pilot. And, we see them over the course of like 10 years. So instead of paying $20,000 a year in property taxes, over 10 years, $200,000, let's say the economic impact, whatever you want to project that out to be, right? Because it all looks and sounds good on paper. Maybe it's only $5,000 for 10 years. We'll see how that goes, right? And then after 10 years, we'll either renew it, different terms, different amounts, we'll revisit it, and that's how that goes.
So it's kind of like long-term investment, seeing what kind of economic impact you employing 20 people will have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if those 20 people each earn $80,000 a year, they're going to spend probably 40 to 50 on groceries, different economic things around the town or the city, then turning the wheel a little bit more.
Exactly,
So,
you got it. Yep.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
Because we all have to work. We all pay taxes. Whether you rent, your landlord's just not paying the property tax out of the kindness of his heart because he loves you.
Yeah.
It's built into your rent payment. And then we get our paychecks, and then we go to the store, the movies, or whatever you enjoy, and then it's 8% sales tax on top of that. So yeah, you got it.
It's one thing I liked about Oregon. There was no sales tax. You go to the store, and it's much easier to add up your total without trying to figure in the tax when you're buying things.
And one big thing is use cash, because using card machines charges most people another 1.5 to 3%.
A lot of places are starting
they're
to
doing
add a
4%.
fee onto using your credit card because of that.
There's a lot of places in Horseheads actually do that now because the credit card companies, it used to be a flat rate per credit card charge where every time they use the transaction, it was used like $1, but now they've done something weird where a lot of places are doing 4% total, so 4 cents to the dollar. So it's kind of a big deal, and the businesses are then pushing that charge onto the customer.
As
so
always.
It's like a looped tax on top of tax on top of another tax.
So that makes me wonder even more about if we go into a cashless society, how are they gonna add even more of a percentage onto that just to make even more money?
I'm absolutely against CBDCs.
Yeah,
no, thank you.
I hope that doesn't happen.
Thanks.
Like you were saying, Jesse, like small business owners, someone comes and spends $50 with us at our small business in cash, it's $50.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the grocery store or the gas station, $50. That store uses it to, pay whatever, it's $50. But when you start using the cards, 1.5% here, 4% here, that $50 eventually all just goes back to the banks and the payment processors, right?
Yep.
After $50 was split into 50 other $50.
Right.
How are we just randomly creating money out of thin air?
That's what the Fed does, right? They just print more of it.
Well,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. They do that.
What is it? The amount of money in the United States, if you were to liquidate it, it's only 30 or 40% of all the money that's being transacted or something like that. It's something ridiculous.
Yeah. It is wild to me that $1 bill can be charged so many times in just one day. Like you can make a whole brand new dollar just by changing that dollar between like 15 people. That's wild. It's absolutely wild.
So I guess since we're talking about money and everything right now, I'll go with this question next. So local budgets play a crucial role in city governments. Could you explain how budget decisions are made and how the public's input is considered in this process?
Well, we run the city operationally on about $35 million, 30 to 35 million from what I've seen in the past almost 4 years.
Is that annually?
Annually, yeah. Yep. And then capital improvement, 10 to 15 million roughly. Capital improvements, infrastructure, roadways, bridges, enhancing the downtown, stuff of that nature. So how do local people have a say in that? By hopefully electing representatives who are fiscally minded and, foresighted. Other than that, aside from an election year, normally this time of year, we've already had budget workshops. They normally hold 2 operating budget workshops and then 1 capital budget. And then shortly after the new year, we're all expected to, vote on it. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to vote in favor of any of those because they always, 3 out of the 4 years always had a property tax increase, and 2 out of those 3 years increases for elected officials. And like I said, I didn't get into this for self-enrichment. And regardless how you feel about it, I always say this, but I mean it. Public service costs me money, not just time away from my business, which means less revenue, less profit. It costs me time away from my family, my children, my friends, doing things I enjoy because, believe it or not, I'm a regular old human being like the rest of us. But it costs me. And here's the joke, regardless how you feel, is I could always prove it with my tax returns, unlike our past president, but we don't have to go there.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
not to say I'm a fan of the guy currently in the White House either.
Right.
Yeah, definitely not that guy.
I hope not.
Well, I mean, his taxes finally were released, right? We didn't see much from it.
Right. Yeah.
So with that is when it comes to budget spending in our own town, is there a way for just regular Joe Schmo to walk in with a proposal to say, hey man, I got an idea for how we could spend $200,000 and I believe it will help our community in this way, XYZ.
I assume that'd be done at like a meeting.
Yeah. I mean, regular council meetings are always open to the public. I really try to encourage and entice people to show up because you can speak your piece, whether it's about an agenda item or just any city business. I can't say that there's much open dialogue or interaction. The city's attorney corporation council, tells us not to respond on record. But ultimately, council people and the mayor, they have that discretion if they want to or not.
I mean, council meetings would be 7 hours long then, because some people will have a lot to say.
Well, there's a time limit. It's 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So you speak your piece in 5 minutes. But there are 2 opportunities. If there's something on the agenda, you get 5 minutes to speak on that. If it's just any citywide business, you get 5 minutes to do that too. Aside from that, definitely engaging your council people, the mayor, city manager. To answer your question, I'm not aware of any official format where someone could come do what you present.
Okay.
Should there be? If people want it, absolutely. Give the people what they want.
You'd always take that proposal to your district's councilman and maybe try to have him propose it to the city.
Absolutely.
For sure.
How often do meetings happen? Is it like once a month or?
No, so the bi-monthly, let's say. Bi-monthly. So we had one last Monday night, so I don't have one tonight, but this Thursday we have council workshop, which is conveniently on a Thursday at 10:30 a.m. when most everybody's working, right? So
that always works out.
Yeah, government always makes it so convenient for people to participate.
What exactly is the council workshop?
So council workshop, that happens this Thursday, and then next Monday night is when we'll go vote on, ideally in a perfect world. So Thursday, council, the mayor, department heads, we meet, and that's when we should discuss what gets populated on the agenda. Again, mind you, the mayor really controls what makes it to an agenda or not per the city charter, and the city charter is like this thick. Now, you don't have to be an attorney to read it, but it is very dry, time-consuming, and it does require a lot of research. I used to get in the habit of going down on a weekly basis multiple times, and I would just open it up and start reading. They don't let it leave the building, unfortunately, so it's not like I could bring it home and do it at my leisure.
Right.
But
could always take photos of every page.
Yeah. So in practice, in theory, on Thursday, a workshop should be all of us meeting, discussing what gets put on an agenda. We agree on it, and then Monday night we actually go to vote on it. How it works in practice is not everybody on council shows up. The ones that do and the ones that do ask questions, it'd be like having a conversation with that wall over there, especially if it's really like thought-invoking or emotion-invoking question that might go against the status quo. I've literally been demeaned to the point of where sometimes I don't even go anymore because nothing I say changes how the rubber stampers are going to vote, and nothing the rubber stampers say are going to change on how I vote on a Monday night.
Yeah, why waste your time?
It sounds like they do that on purpose then to
discourage people from...
For sure. Yeah, it has been, and I don't want to get too much in detail, but I got to a point where it started to affect my health at a certain point. Why would I put myself in an environment where I'm demeaned and disrespected and my opinion's not valued? Like, we always hear about how we need new blood and new ideas and young people getting involved. Well, as the city's youngest elected city official, first third party at the time, that was my experience. And I don't let it discourage me, because if I don't do it, it seems like no one's going to do it. And call me crazy, whatever anyone believes in, the man upstairs, karma, something inside me. I have this inner burning desire that I've got to do this. I have to serve my community. And if I don't do it, no one's going to do it.
Now, do you think all the name calling and belittling, do you think that will change when some other people from the younger generations begin to get into office, or do you think it might stay the same?
I don't want to make it all about age, right? But just with the foresightedness and the desire to have progress. I'm not talking about like radical extremists from either side, progressivism, any of that stuff, but just progress that we can all see and feel, and it's tangible. We just had an election. We're all aware of that. I'm very fortunate to be able to serve for another 4-year term, but some crucial seats have changed. And, not to get into politics, but there was a majority on one side, and not one that you would think that has led us to where we're at. So 4 seats flipped the other way. And I think most of them, if not all of them, have that same intention to make things better here without bringing all the polarizing national, regional, and state issues to the local level. So I do have some hope.
A lot of people are tired of, as you said, the status quo. There have been a lot of older generation people who say we need fresh new ideas, we need new blood, we need to revitalize, but yet they're the ones rubber stamping and, kind of like the crossing their fingers behind their back, where I'm not going to do it because I've got this cushy thing that I've promised this guy to do. So come on, kids.
So we kind of talked about that a little bit before we got started, and I hope it's recognized, and people at home recognize this too. I haven't used names, so I'm going to try to avoid doing that. I'll use titles and positions, right? So if you look at mayor and the 6 council seats as a whole, up until this current election, we're all serving to the end of the year regardless. So mayor, you have someone that's retired from Chemung County, from the sheriff's office. First district's me, private guy, 11 years, small business owner, blue collar. I clean cars, right? Really glorified. Second district, previous to last year's county election and that individual moving up to county government, he was on council for 11 years. After 10 years in a state position, you have a vested state pension. Third district, retired from Chemung County up at the airport. Fourth district, love the guy, great guy, but he works for the school district. That's a state pension. Anyone who works for a school district, state pension system. Fifth district, he worked for New York State Department of Community Supervision and Correction. He was a parole officer. And then in the 6th district, she works for Chemung County, is a full-time employee. So my point in sharing all this is 6 out of 7 people who are elected all made their money, their livelihood, their careers, or still do, in the government, right? So where does their allegiance lie? To the government for that paycheck.
Yeah. It's going to sway how they vote.
Yeah, so we need more private sector people as opposed to public sector government employees that get into these elected positions,
So
in my opinion.
What does it take to run? Can any person just...
Yeah, as long as you're not a felon, you can run and hold office.
Just spread the word and...
Yeah, and I would love to help anyone that's out there watching. If you guys know anyone, I don't care if they run against me, because even if there's not just one of me, if there's 4 of me, that's a win, and I would happily, go back to the sidelines. And
The only person I knew that wanted to run this year was my buddy David.
So, David Schrader.
Yeah.
I tried to help
do plan
David
on
and work with him.
on here at some point too.
Oh, cool.
He's definitely a passionate dude. So
And he's smart. He's even younger than me.
Yeah, I don't get to see him as much as I used to, because you know how life goes. People get busy and they can't link up as much. But I always love just sitting down chatting with him.
Yeah, no, so I'd be down to talk about that with anyone, help them regardless of views or anything, as long as their heart's in the right place. But it's a petitioning process. The state has rules on that. You go out, knock on doors, you get signatures. Most people just do the bare minimum. I always find it very prideful and make it a challenge of myself to go exceed those limits, and I get them myself. A lot of candidates have campaigns that go and get them on their behalf, and that's really your first time to engage voters and constituents and taxpayers. You might have to run a primary. You know, if another candidate from your same party is running, you run a primary, and then the winner of that, goes on to the general election in November. Everyone always thinks, money's a big part of it. It is, just like anything in the world, but it's not absolutely necessary. If you want to outwork the next guy or gal, pound the pavement, front porch politics, that's what I did my first time around. I did a lot of it this time around. That's tremendously much more significant than any amount of money that can be spent.
For sure.
Since we were on the budget, I got to ask, because I've heard so many other people ask too on Facebook. Man, what's up with the roundabouts? Why
I
are
was just about to
yeah?
ask
Why
about
are
that.
cities?
Who is in charge? Of
Why are
actually
cities
putting all
so
these
like
roundabouts in?
gung ho about roundabouts all of a sudden?
So which roundabouts? Like the really tiny ones you have to drive
All
over on
of
Maple
them.
Ave, or all of them?
Those
I'll say both of them. The Maple Ave ones, which were actually pretty entertaining when they first put them in, because I was working at the Southside Domino's, and there was a lot of people that didn't know those were there at first. So I got to, like, the first month see a bunch of people just drive right up over them going 30 miles an hour.
Especially when it snowed.
But like the one by McDonald's, was that one really necessary?
Yeah, so we'll touch on both of those, and I'll answer your question directly real first. So you'll still see commercial vehicles drive right over the ones on Maple Ave, because what else do you do, right?
they're too big. You
yeah.
can't. You know?
Even people in soccer mom Suburbans and Yukons and stuff, they just right over it. So who likes him? And I'm not throwing him under the bus, so I'm comfortable using his name. Because he's a big proponent of them, and he's got the data to back it up. So the Department of Public Works Commissioner Director for Chemung County and City of Elmira, he's actually a 1st District constituent. His name's Andrew Avery, and he will tell you that he's a big fan of the roundabouts. And I'm going to humble myself. I got to agree with Mr. Avery a little bit. I'm not a fan of the ones on Maple Ave because they're just so cumbersome and awkward.
Yes.
But the one like McDonald's, so that I believe was funded. It was before I'm on council. But that was funded through the federal government, DOT, New York State DOT might have been involved too. So all that money, the $4 million, a little excessive for a roundabout in my opinion, but that's what it was. It was like a use it or lose it. It was a grant for this, and you either use it or you don't. Now the reason Mr. Avery and I will say why I'm in favor of it is statistically they keep traffic flowing, right? Less accidents, motor vehicle accidents, injuries. I really like them for the flow of traffic. Instead of sitting at an archaic red light traffic signal, wasting gas, pollutant, carbon footprints, we can talk about all that. As long as people know how to use them, the natural flow of traffic, it happens, right?
Sadly, I feel like not a lot of people around here know how to properly use them.
And that's the thing, you go out to like New England states, they've lived with roundabouts since forever, right? But so proper education with how to use them, who's got the right of way, what do you do? And thankfully around here, we only have the 1-lane ones, because if you've ever been out to New England, they literally have like 6-lane ones where you've got to be on the inside lane to exit over here, and
I feel like
confusing.
I feel like anything more than 1 lane around here, people would lose their minds because they have a hard enough time with the 1 lane.
Just thinking about it.
You're right.
But
you're right.
it's generationally, like if you're with your kids driving these roundabouts their whole lives, they instinctually are going to know how to do it.
That's true. 20 years from now, nobody's going to be asking any
I'm
questions
actually
about
with
them.
you. I agree with the larger roundabouts. They're perfectly fine, and they do help with the flow and the things that we've done, especially with the one with McDonald's where we put the sculptures in the center. It's gorgeous.
It does look
It
nice.
does
It is
look pretty
beautiful.
nice,
You
yeah.
can make them very, very nice. But these one-ons Maple Ave, I personally believe it had to do something with zoning because of the sidewalk and the way the houses are constructed there.
I thought it
weren't
was with the
able
school
to make them
kids
large.
too, to help
It
people
did
slow down with
It
the
did to
school
slow
kids
down,
crossing
but
the
the
road.
reason why they couldn't make them large is because of the zoning there with the houses
okay.
and everything. There wasn't enough space.
The right of way, and then it's like, do you use eminent domain? We're going to come take your land, like that force thing. That's never a good thing. So you're absolutely right. Andy Avery, the commissioner of DPW, he did explain that was the reason for it. And Adam's also right in saying that the need for it was because of the Riverside school, their kids crossing, people were flying up and down Maple Ave.
It's one
There
straight
was-
road. People are doing 45, 50.
Yeah. So they did a traffic study, and the average speed was like, don't quote me on this, but let's say it was like 38. I believe that it was lowered after the roundabouts. They did another study, and the average speed was 33. So they were effective at reducing the speed for the safety of the school children that were there. But as far as users of, the roundabouts, Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a decent
I
amount of
think,
accidents or near accidents over there.
I think regular
People
speed
botting them
bumps
out and-
would have been good. You know,
The thing with speed bumps here is, it's winter for half the year around here, and plows, they end up, taking them out, and, it's
True,
tough to
true.
maintain them, and then,
You ever seen those? They're not really speed bumps, but they're like 3D. The way they paint the crosswalk makes it look like it's raised up. So it gives the illusion
seen
that there's a
those.
speed bump there. It's always an option the city could always look into.
yeah, agreed.
You know how happy I was when you left that comment on my Facebook earlier in the year when I was talking about Church Street and you were like, oh, they're repaving it. I was happy as hell. I probably shouldn't have been that happy that I found out a road was getting paved. But, man, I had driven down dirt roads that were less bumpy than Church Street was before they repaved it.
Yeah.
That's a frequently traveled road of mine. So
Everybody loves smooth, paved
Yeah.
roads. Not only does it look nice, it's just more enjoyable to travel down.
I was ready to go out and get a pair of
Quiet, makes you
rollerblades for that.
appreciate it.
It's easier
Yeah.
to skateboard
But
now.
definitely
Easier to
something
skateboard now.
about planned obsolescence when it comes to road work.
Oh, my
It's-
gosh, I know. So
Uh,
the current mayor was just touting all these miles of roads that we've repaved, right? But everybody's seen them, right? You got to know what I'm talking about. They don't scratch or mill them down, and it's new blacktop, curb to curb. It's the layovers, and those things look so just
Hideous.
chintzy, and like it makes me think someone who's been born and raised here his whole life, never left, although maybe I've thought about it before, but it gives off the vibes that, like, man, people really don't care around here, like
Just kind of laziness
it's
a little bit.
lazy, bare minimum.
Or it makes us look like we're a very poor town. Like, oh, we can't afford to do any more than just this little patch right here, so that's all we're going to do.
definitely makes you wonder. Well, if they had the auction and said lowest bidder gets it, they skimped out on doing one thing and paying as little as they could. Where's the rest of that money?
Well, with government contracts, the bad part about it is that, they should always get put out to public bid, and unfortunately, they always go with the lowest bidder. So,
Yeah.
just like anything in life, lowest anything, you could probably safely assume it's the lowest quality of work, right?
I can't remember which astronaut said it, but that was one of his concerns when they were flying up into space. That was his thought as they were blasting off. Like, man, every part on this rocket ship went to the lowest bidder to be put on.
How can you blame them, though? I'd
Yeah.
be scratching my head. Am I going to come back from this mission? Or
It would be a little
Some
scary.
of them didn't.
Yeah. Space exploration, that's
Terrifying.
pretty wild, unknown, right?
It'd be interesting to get up into space. I know if they actually start doing, like, if they're able to, like, you can pay to take a flight into space. I'd probably
space shuttles.
I'd probably
orbit
I'd probably want to do it.
they were
I
like
mean,
$200,000 for a ticket or something like that.
yeah, especially if you can actually go up there and see the roundness of the Earth yourself. That way,
But
I
then,
can
see, here's
say
the thing.
checkmate.
You would take the photos of it, and then you'd be like, "See, I prove it."
They're photoshopped.
No, it's because
Yeah,
the curve of the camera lens makes it look curved. Well, I saw it with my own eyes. Well, your eyes are circular. Ha ha.
You know what gets me about the space thing? There's parts of this Earth, especially like in water, the depths of the ocean, that we don't even know. They're unexplored. There could be species living down there not discovered. I mean, right here on Earth, where I'm pretty comfortable having my 2 feet planted on the ground, like, we don't even know what's here, but yet we're sending human beings off to space in the sky.
Such
I think
a waste of money.
it's now
Yeah.
about 30% of the ocean is explored. We're still finding new species. I
30?
mean, in 2016,
I think it's 2.
no,
or
no, no.
3.
We've explored a lot, especially with LiDAR and radar scanning.
I'm saying
we've been
6
able to
at best.
map a lot.
Still 30% is still not even
Yeah,
half.
for
There's
sure,
still
for sure.
leaves the vast
and,
majority unexplored.
I mean, there's a certain point we can't even go past going down because the crush depth it'll just
Yeah.
Yeah.
crush everything.
Yeah,
The
it's
Mariana
drones or
Trench,
nothing.
we're still finding species.
Look what happened to
down
those
there,
poor
so-
people just earlier this year that went down in the submarines.
Ocean
200,000. Yeah, I mean, essentially that's probably what happened, right? A loss of pressure or power, and
I just hope
they
It
found
says about
pieces of
20.
it.
That's more than I thought.
I just hope in a
How much?
situation like
20%.
that it was fast for
5%.
them.
A little less than 20. It
Little
says
less
more
than
than
okay.
80% hasn't been.
okay.
But that's just because we've been able to LiDAR scan a lot of the ground. So we
Yeah.
know what the ocean floor looks like, but
So how much
It's
of the
the
moon?
water
How much of the moon have we explored? Have we explored more of the moon than our own ocean?
We've never been there.
Have we even been in the moon?
According to some. According to some.
My 11-year-old always has this just pure like wisdom, and I don't know where he gets it from, but maybe his grandfather. But he always says, "That's what they tell us."
At least he knows early.
He's questioning things
took
young.
me
He
until I was
questions
like
things. I love that
26.
about him.
It took
To
me until I was
question
like
everything.
26 to start questioning everything. Like, you know what? Maybe
Question
these
your
people
own
really
questions.
don't care that much about us.
Yeah, I think that's where we've gone wrong. Is we don't encourage kids to question things. The next generation, they're taught what to think, not how to think, and
No
I think
critical
we need to
thought
get back
skills.
to
Yeah.
Critical
grassroots,
thinking's very,
yes.
very important.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly to do with the way we do education in the United States, where we took the Prussian model to just educate kids to be good workers. You know, you sit down in your seat, you do your work, you hear the bell, you get up, you go to lunch. Same thing.
Single
used to
file
see.
line.
Yep. Where we
Don't be a disruption.
we train good workers to just do the work you're supposed to, when we should be teaching kids civil rights, home ec.
Agreed,
You know,
yeah.
like you need to learn how to sew your own clothes,
Change a
or
flat tire.
Yes,
Grow
these
your own
simple
food.
things.
Yeah,
Instead,
amen.
do you know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell?
That was a huge
Cool.
meme.
When
Mito
am I
what?
ever going to care about that? Like, how is that going to help me live in this world? How about you
If
teach
that's
us how
ever
to do our
saved one
taxes?
person's life, I'd be surprised.
It has not.
I don't know. I definitely needed to know about metamorphic, igneous, and sedimentary rock.
Actually, yes,
That's
because
important.
rocks are cool. You know,
They
you
are,
can
and I
learn
like
a
to
lot from
balance
the
them,
ground
so.
just by knowing what the rocks are. Stuff like that, for sure. But
Well, I think as long as schools are propped up by government, like it'll never change.
independent education
Yeah.
schools, I believe, are
Yeah,
a good part of the future.
yeah, private schools are the way to go.
And we-
but
Sounds
a lot of
like
people can't
sounds like
afford it.
public schools are just getting crazier too. Like some of the stories I hear from parents that have kids at like Elmira High School or Ernie Davis Academy, like some of the stuff I hear is like maybe it was that crazy when I was in school and I just didn't realize it because I was there. But like
We didn't
I don't
have
think
litter
so.
boxes in the classroom.
I think
And I
I think that
definitely-
might be a myth, man. That sounds like it might just be some hysteria. I haven't actually heard any confirmation about litter boxes
I've
being
heard
in classrooms.
stories from my son and his friends. There is a student who walks around with a towel.
Yeah.
Man, does he chase it?
Another student had suffered consequences for not just chasing the towel, but ripping it off the student with the towel.
See, if I walked around school with a tail on me, I'm the type ADHD. I'd see my tail and be like, oh my god, and start chasing it like a dog. So I'd be running circles in the hallway trying to get it.
There's definitely. I don't remember when we were in high school, right? I don't ever remember hearing a story of somebody getting stabbed or shot, but just at the South Side High School. game.
Erica said someone got stabbed her first day of high school when she was in 9th grade, which would have been, I think, 2007.
Maybe with like a pencil or something. Yeah, there were incidents like that, but
Few and far between, I think.
Just
Wasn't
a
as
few weeks
frequent.
ago here, there was a football game at the high school, and
Oh,
somebody
yeah, I
was
did.
stabbed
The
in the
girl
parking
stabbed
lot.
I did hear
earlier.
about that.
That's there's a problem in our country, and it's
I mean, in
Getting
that
worse.
regard, I think kids are raising kids, and I say that very humbly and respectfully. I was, very young, 22, when I had my first. So I haven't had it all figured out. I still don't, but the traditional like nuclear family's been under attack from governments for
Yep.
a really long time, and we see it from every aspect. It's tough, and then the social economic aspect of everything is just life's always coming at us from every which direction, and you got to
and
be
we
tough.
just distract ourselves with social media. We're always
Yeah.
looking for that dopamine hit instead of
What the Romans do,
Yeah.
when
The
Rome
bread
was
and
coming,
games.
Bread and circuses.
send them off to the circus,
Yeah.
distract them.
I watch my circuses every Saturday with the UFC,
But if we didn't have this, people would just have to sit down and talk with people more, and then everybody would be like, "Hey, we actually
Agree on
we
more than
agree on these
disagree
problems that
on.
we see,
Right? Yeah.
but we're very distracted now."
Like you were saying, it's just that talking to your neighbor, the stranger in the grocery store, or at the park, or anywhere. It's just there's not that engagement. There's not that open
It's
dialogue.
a foreign concept.
It's like
for
people are
in the
afraid.
US. Yeah, they're afraid to
afraid to talk to one another.
You're
But
right.
That's
when
another
you
thing.
said
just anxiety amongst young kids now, it's insane. Where I will see kids that get so nervous just when you say hello to them.
Mhm.
Like you talk to people on Xbox for 12 hours a day, but an actual human being saying hello has you breathing into a paper bag right now?
Yeah.
What is happening?
So when you said kids raising kids, when you say that, to me, I think of more like consciously. I don't necessarily think it always has to do with age. Like I've seen people 18 to 22 step up to the plate and raise their kids fine, where I know other people still in their young 30s that just act like children, and they're raising kids,
You
and
hit the nail on the head.
those kids see that, and they follow the example.
That's the
Permanent
sentiment
infantilism.
that I meant and that I was, taught, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't come up with that. I've heard it other places, but I think that's the genuine sentiment behind it is the
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, your ability to comprehend and sit down and have a difficult conversation with your neighbor about something you might not agree with. It might be a very emotional, topic to discuss or, but we've got to get back to that. The respect, the agree to disagree. It's okay. We all don't have to agree as long as we respect one another to disagree. That's all we need.
As long as I can see where you're coming from, I can understand why you feel the way you do or the opinion that you have, and you can understand mine and the way it works. But nowadays, it does feel like if you do disagree with somebody, it's almost an
You're
instant.
ostracized.
It's not just ostracization; it's just
They hate you.
absolute
That
attack
happened.
where they,
Yeah.
oh, you must be a demon because you believe this. Hold up now. Wait a second.
That happened with Erica recently with one of her friends, that Erica simply just brought up something that this friend disagreed with, and she went off the rails on Erica, and they haven't spoken since, all
That's
over
too
a
bad.
simple disagreement.
It's the extreme propagandization of people. It's so many people are convinced that if somebody disagrees with what you believe in, it's because
They're the
they
enemy
have
now.
the absolute worst intentions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they don't want you to have autonomy over your body? Well, they want to control you and kill you. What?
Right.
That,
They take it to
sure,
the extreme
maybe,
real fast.
Maybe a
0
few
to
do,
100 real quick,
but no. I just want you to kind of recognize that that's not always the case. It's a little wild sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, not to go too far, down the rabbit hole per se, but we kind of got a hypocritical message from, national, state, and all the media outlets too, as far as body autonomy goes. It's like, okay, there were some things that were forced upon all of us, and if you didn't do it, you lost some things, right?
You're not allowed to travel. You're not allowed to fly. You
Yeah.
can't even go see people if they're in the hospital.
Jobs. I mean, you
The
do
situation
this
was
or
a
you
pretty
lose your
Yeah,
job, and then not shortly
pretty
after
crazy
the
time.
whole
And then they
the
were forced to
abortion
rehire.
thing came
Yeah.
up. Like either it's your body, your choice for men and women, or whatever else you identify as, or it's not. But you can't pick and choose where
You can't cherry
give
pick.
people. You cherry pick exactly. It's got to be consistent across the board or not.
My little
Well, some
brother's
people try to say, "Oh, there's nuance in it because this subject you're protecting everybody as a whole," and it's like, no. Because if you understand what that word meant, vaccination. If you understand what that word means, it doesn't matter if I get it. If you got it, you're safe. If I don't, then all
That's
right,
on you.
that was my fault.
Well, I mean, gosh, I mean, not to again hyper focus on it, but just look at the numbers and the young people who are like physically fit, professional athletes that just, how did they refer to it? Suddenly died.
that
Like,
poor kid from Corning. If you look up in
Yeah.
Alberta, Canada, in August of 2022, the number one cause of death was unknown causes. That's a little strange in this day and age when
That's
we can
probably
do
never
when
been
we
the
can do.
case after the 17 or 1800s when people
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on.
So like my little brother's girlfriend though, like because she didn't want to do the hokey pokey, she lost her first
Turn yourself
job.
around.
Yeah, she ended up losing her first job because it was mandated. So then she found a new job, and this new job then later mandated it. So eventually she gave in and did the hokey pokey.
It's too bad. I mean, think about how so many people that we love, we care about, we know. That was their ultimatum. Like, can I, keep paying my taxes, my mortgage, and putting food on the table, keep the lights on? Okay, screwed. I'm just going to do it. The psychological warfare, that was deep, man. And,
Yes.
and that push and pull, that constriction and contraction, it was scary, Fortunately, I worked for myself, so I wasn't necessarily subject to that. But I feel for the people who were, that they weren't really given a choice.
Yeah, they were put in a situation where it was pay your bills and keep your house, or don't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it definitely exposed a lot of authoritarian tendencies when it comes to the unknown. So, sure, New York State didn't say you have to get it, but we're allowing businesses to tell you do. That's kind of like so you found a loophole to tell people that they have to do something that they don't want to do against their will or suffer consequences. And we don't know what's going to happen to you 5 to 10 years from now, and we're completely not liable for anything that does.
Yeah.
And there's already
That's scary.
ridiculous adverse side effects.
Yeah. And groupthink zombie mentality really kicked in, and it terrified me to see how many people just instantly flipped from, I'm never getting this because this guy created it, to, oh my God, you didn't get it? Oh, you must be some kind of far extremist ideological person. Like,
So one good,
oh my God, I can't keep up with you people.
one good point I
Oh,
actually did
man.
hear from a friend. She had mentioned that, if this was the biggest human trial in history to test these new technologies in the human body, she said she was happy to oblige to be tested so that in the future we could better this technology. And I guess I did respect that answer. It's like, hey, if you want to do that personally for that reason, absolutely, that's fine. However, I should have the choice to not do that if I don't want to.
Agreed.
I understand the for the good of mankind argument. Absolutely. You're brave for doing that, but
More
don't
power
tell
to
me
you.
then I have to, because no, like that causes too many problems.
That's a huge weight. So, I mean, whoever that individual was, I mean, I commend that person for being able to rationalize and, that was that individual's justification for it. That's a big weight to accept and then to carry.
It could have been an excuse, too, to make it sound like they were doing something noble, but they were just...
Virtual signals.
It could
There's
have.
a lot of that. There really is a lot.
But I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, though, if we were able to advance the technology soon enough, imagine instead of getting so many different pokes as a baby, imagine if there was like one thing they could give you, and now boom, your immune system is like
Superhuman?
like a superhuman immune system. We're like, okay, cool, you're good. You don't ever have to worry about getting sick. I mean, I don't know if something like that would ever happen, but it would be interesting to see if technology could ever get that far, or if we could advance that far in medicine.
Well, there are already drugs that make you kind of superhuman. They used to give it to the Nazis in the 40s, and they put it in chocolate bars.
Yeah, that
So,
stuff's dangerous. That stuff's
eh,
dangerous.
They already definitely have ways to create.
It might make you
different
feel
things.
superhuman, but then you're going to lose your effing mind later on.
Yeah.
How much of that initiative or the intention behind whatever schedule you want to refer to is rooted in the betterment of humans, right? I mean, because we've been taught that the world's overpopulated, there's population control, there's finite resources. So if healthcare was rooted in making everybody healthy and
I
they could
wish
live as
that
long
was
as
the case.
Instead of what? Money?
They made
right?
billions, billions,
Right. So I think
billions.
there'd have to be a huge shift in consciousness among people, human beings.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. World Economic Forum kind of stuff, and World Health
I don't know,
Organization.
they want us to eat bugs and
They
own
do.
nothing and be happy, but they fly to the World Economic Forum and
Have-
their
And
jets
private
that
jets,
emit
yeah.
more carbon than my car does throughout the car's whole life.
Have you seen some of the photos of Klaus Schwab from a couple years ago?
Yeah, I've
he
seen
looks
some
like
of
Darth Vader. Like
Yeah.
he dresses like Darth Vader. This is your stereotypical Dr. Evil.
Have you
Like-
ever seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey?
Oh man, it's been like 20 years.
So the bald guy in that is who Klaus Schwab reminds me of. The guy that wants
believe
to
it, man.
kill Bill and Ted with the robots so they don't change the future. Like, for some reason, maybe it's the accent, but that's what Klaus Schwab reminds me of.
Was
But-
that
but
death or
here's-
something? Or
I can't remember the guy's name because it's been a long time since I've seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, too.
But I believe this is one of the things with them is they truly think that they do have the best intentions for the world. But how does the saying go?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, so they think, well, we're overpopulated, so we have to do something about it. Well, there's only one thing you could do, and that's never been the answer any time in history. So it's not a good thing. One thing that definitely drives me crazy about stuff like that is I remember teenage maybe early 20s, the whole initiative to we got to save the whales, right? Remember seeing commercials for that? Oh, save the whales, because they were dying beaching themselves.
I love the South Park episode.
Well,
That's
we have
happening all
these-
over the world right now. I was just
It
watching
is.
something earlier, and there's no
Because
mainstream media coverage.
we have these giant windmill farms deep in the ocean, and it turns out that these windmills, because they're churning at such a speed, it's creating vibrational echoes in the water that are driving whales mad.
Interesting.
So in the initiative to create clean energy, we're killing whales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing about that, so that'll give me something fun to
I
look
just
into.
saw
here soon.
today
Yeah.
there were a couple hundred orcas that beached themselves in Australia, and nobody knows why or how or what.
It's
But there was
getting wild.
no answer offered, and that makes sense.
Yeah,
It was a possibility.
They did sonar detection devices. It's basically like the same thing that whales use to communicate. When you hear the underwater, it
Like
sends out
Free
an
Willy.
electrical signal and frequency. They hooked a sonar like that 15 miles away from one of these windmill farms, and it sounded like nails on a chalkboard for
man.
20 minutes straight. You would go crazy if you just had to listen to that for
Right.
hours. I'd beach myself. I'm done. Get me out of here, please.
Yeah,
What if they just make all the whales
that's
go
not funny,
deaf?
but your presentation of it was.
Should make all the whales. You know
Yeah,
what?
I don't think they need to hear.
We need to genetically modify whales.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think we should give them legs too, so they can finally come on land and be like, "Stop!"
Yeah,
this
right, dude.
nonsense."
Could you imagine a bunch of fucking orcas on land? No way. They
You're
are
right.
they are
That's
brutal.
awful. That's awful.
They are brutal. You'd see them throwing polar bears up in the air and shit to have fun with them.
They are
You ever seen what they do to seals?
brutal creatures. You ever seen what they do
Like-
to stingrays too?
Yeah, you know how our
See
parents
a stingray fly.
you know how our parents told us not to play with our food. Well, orcas' parents didn't pass that message on.
They like to terrorize them.
Dude, I've seen them launch seals like 100 feet in the air. It's like,
wild.
holy shit.
I've
Movie
watched
Free
Planet
Willy
Earth.
made
I've
us-
seen them do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie Free Willy made us absolutely love orcas, but then it turns out they are psychotic
Well, they're called killer whales, so
for a reason, and they're
the movie Free Willy missed that part.
And
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
now they've learned how to disable boat engines.
Oh yeah, they
I
were.
saw
Yeah, I
that.
recently
were
saw
attacking
that.
Ramming boats, yeah.
Well,
That's
they're
a
not.
scary
They're not
thought.
always. They're not always bad people. There's people that swim with them, and they're.
They just like to have fun by playing with food.
Apparently, they
good.
don't like the taste of human. I don't know if they've all tried it
Oh,
or they
maybe-
just
maybe that could be it.
instinctively know we taste
They
like
had
shit.
orcas
They're
at
nice to humans.
SeaWorld that went crazy being in captivity because we put them in a pool when they're used to swimming miles out in the ocean. They've
Yeah.
attacked trainers before, but they probably went nuts.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
it.
what do people do when they're incarcerated? They go frickin'
Psychopathy,
nuts.
you know.
Yeah.
You put somebody in a straight jacket for 15 years straight. Well, when you
Yeah,
let their
throw-
hands loose, they're
Throw them
probably
in
going
the
to choke
hole
you.
in
Yeah, put them in solitary for just 3 months and watch them lose their mind.
3 days.
Yeah, some people probably wouldn't last 3 days.
A lot wouldn't. I remember I did end up spending a little bit of time in jail, and that first 7 days where they put you in solitary, that's absolutely to mentally break you. That's absolutely what it's for. There's no reason why you have to keep me in solitary to check if I have some kind of virus in my body. No, you're simply doing psychological damage to me, and that's it.
Well, yeah, they like to hurt people. A
Not
lot
to
of them.
digress, but just to give some hope out there again for people at home. I went to jail before.
Yeah.
Again, we were talking about people not running as large on a
It
felon,
is
you
a
can hold
learning
office.
experience. It
and
is.
So I went to jail because I was a visionary ahead of my time. I went to jail for a plant that I possessed that is now legal. So that was all thrown away. You know, it was
That's why I had to do time in the
misdemeanor
brig
back
when I was in the
then,
Marine
but-
Corps. Was I popped on a piss test, and that's what got me kicked out of the Marine Corps. It's crazy they won't let Marines smoke to relax on the weekend, but by all means, drink yourself to fucking oblivion and do stupid shit all weekend. That's fine as long as you don't get arrested doing it.
I actually kind of feel that alcohol should be a little bit more regulated, because it does some wild things to people.
It's one of the
we've
worst drugs on
glorified
the
it
planet.
as a society. I mean, I'm going to humble myself again here. I said I wasn't going to talk about this again, but I'm going to talk about it one more time. So we have these happy hours that the government sponsors for like 7, 8, 9 weeks in the summertime, where all the adults accept, hey, there's nothing to do in Elmira except let's go get drunk in the streets. And again, I'm not going to name names, but I think you know the event I'm referring to, right?
The Market Street thing, or the
Live after 5.
yeah,
You said
there
it.
you go,
That's
there you
it.
go.
So, you know, we as adults, right, have accepted there's nothing to do but go get drunk. What kind of message does that send to the kids, right? Now, to humble myself, I was in a DWI crash back in March of this year, right? Fortunately, nobody else was involved or injured. I didn't kill somebody because I couldn't live with that weight walking around. But I was at a point, the politics, I'm not justifying it, just self-awareness and humility. I was to the point where that was really easy to confide with my problems, right? Numbing, they make them go away temporarily. You feel like a bag of shit the next day, but that's the cycle. And as a society, we've glorified alcohol.
Yeah.
I think cannabis, and people might be shocked to hear me say this if they listen, but I think even cannabis is getting to that point where some people, there's a very big psychological addiction aspect to cannabis that a lot of people don't want to admit. And I myself was one of those people. And strangely this year, as Sober October started drawing to an end, I was like, man, I just don't have the urge to smoke anymore. And since Sober October ended, I still haven't smoked.
I saw your post about that the other day. Good for you, man.
Thank you.
You still
And
haven't?
No, I still
Oh,
haven't.
wow.
And it got me thinking, like, man, I think I smoked so much because I just didn't want to deal with the stress of my sober mind. And now I'm learning to really deal with those stresses and put everything I learned in years of therapy into action to be able to just kind of keep myself calm. And I just haven't had the urge to smoke since. I realized it was like slowing me down in the things I want to do. And since I spend Tuesday and Wednesday all day doing the podcast, I definitely don't want to be high and slow myself down while I'm doing the editing process. It would just take even longer. And I feel like not everyone gets lazy, but sometimes I would get pretty lazy when I would smoke. My issue too, though, is I would do giant dabs, and it's like that's
That's
just
the thing. Overindulgence.
That's
Same
way
thing
too
with alcohol.
much
Moderation,
THC.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the problems I have, and that's why I haven't drank in years. Is I have
Didn't-
tried
didn't
so
know when
many
to-
times.
yeah, didn't know
I
when to stop.
cannot control myself. After 2 beers, something just clicks, and then
I'm going to have
Blackout.
24 of them.
yeah, just something happens, and I decided I
That's
obviously
self-awareness,
cannot
man.
do this.
I mean, that's powerful. That's strong. More people need to get that, and then
Yeah, definitely.
have that self-awareness and the realization that, hey, I just can't do this in moderation, so I probably just shouldn't at all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
Instead
same
of
thing.
giving into it and saying, well, if I can't do it in moderation, I might as well just overdo it. Maybe you should find something else.
Something positive.
Yeah.
And
Go-
I was raised better than that. I had an aunt I never even got to meet. My dad was one of 8, but he grinded that into our heads growing up, through school, underage drinking, you're young, progressing through life, and that's just something you don't do. So I knew better than it. It was just easy, accessible, and I thought socially acceptable, right? But I needed that to happen because very much of what you shared, I was at that point, so
That's tough.
yeah.
And definitely life as an adult is tough. So, of course,
Hey,
I'm
anything
never
in
going to
life
shame.
that's easy is never worth
Yeah.
it in my life. Easy money, easy women, any easy thing you want, it's never worth it,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a catch if it's easy.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to shame anybody for having some kind of indulgence.
Never.
But you can easily destroy yourself by overindulging.
Yeah.
And that's where maybe it's time you find a circle of friends to kick in and say, you know what, let's find something else.
Yeah.
It's hard. Being a human being is just a very difficult experience.
Yeah, that is a big part of it. You are who you hang out with.
Usually
Yeah.
when you stop indulging in something, you'll lose a lot of friends, but I feel like it's at that point in life where the idea of one love lost, another love found, other people will enter your life that'll inspire you to stay away from that thing you used to indulge in and encourage you to do and be better. So that's one thing
If-
I've noticed.
Agreed.
If you allow people in. There are some people
You do
that
have
get
to
so
allow
broken
people in,
that
yeah.
it's hard. That was one of my things too. It was very difficult for me to, after quitting so many things and losing all of my friends, I didn't want to allow anybody else in. So being an isolationist was kind of my thing for a long time. And
Are you the type that kind of has like a love-hate relationship with human beings? Is that why you're an isolationist?
yes, small groups like this, pretty
Mm-hmm.
fine. When it comes to large groups and groupthink starts to kick in, I'm out of there. See ya. No thanks.
The only large groups I can deal with is if I'm at like a concert or something and everyone's vibing out to the music. I can deal with that. But
Because there's a certain atmosphere, for sure.
Yeah, everybody shares a commonality.
still got to get to my first dubstep show, man. As much as I love dubstep, I've never been to a dubstep show.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to get to one.
Subtronics in Buffalo in February.
the group think thing, you mentioned that earlier, and it reminded me of a story that I think is worthwhile in sharing. Something local right here, and how that can expand into so many other things, and maybe alludes to where we're at in society. But a mid-70-year-old constituent reached out to me. This was springtime of this year, and he's like, Nick, I got Mr. Councilman, I got to share an experience with you. I'm like, okay, I'm all ears. So he stopped down to Weiss Markets and had his dog, who is a problematic dog, but it was his companion, and it's really all he had. Who he had was his dog. Sambo's his name. That's the only name I'll say. The dog, Sambo. Sambo was well known to animal control, PD, the neighbors, jumped out of second-story windows. He's destroyed, eaten doorways, door frames, floors.
Wow.
Pretty interesting dog, yeah, high energy. So constituent went to Weiss to go grocery shopping. Sambo came along for a car ride. Cracks the window, right? Because you don't leave dogs in hot cars or kids, right? Crack a window for some fresh air. Went in the store. He comes out, and there's a big crowd of people, a bunch of noise, and one person has Sambo. He's out of the car. And he's like, holy cow, like, what happened? That's my dog. How'd you get him? Thank you so much. Sambo busted the window out of the vehicle. Not irregular or a surprise, because he's had so many other instances over 10 years with Sambo. This is kind of just normal. So thank you. Gets his dog, walks him back to the car. Again, not advocating for this whatsoever, but understandable, because we're all humans, right? And we all love our dogs, but they've done some dumb shit that just like irks our nerves, right? So not condoning it, but just from a position of understanding our fellow human beings. One side alleges he just slapped the dog, bad Sambo. Other side, the groupthink, the angry mob, alleges that he was repeatedly punching the dog and abusing him. Police come, but before police can get there, Subject A comes over and puts a 75-year-old man in a stranglehold, gets him to the ground, puts his knee in his back, and is choking him to the point where he's going to pass out. Now, that's kind of like kidnapping, right? You're not a police officer or a peace officer. You just don't do false imprisonment, holding someone against their will, yes. Lets off, finally gets his keys and goes to drive away, and the guy reaches in, takes the keys, and restrains him again until the police arrive. So, man alleges, I did whack my dog because he busted my window out when I was in grocery shopping, kind of pissed off. And the other side, he was abusing the dog, and that's what justified me. And he had, all the Karens and soccer moms and everybody else cheering him on. Oh, yeah, get him. Don't let him leave. But that groupthink is dangerous. I mean, this guy could have strangled and killed this old man. What if he had a respiratory issue or some other ailment you were unaware of, and you just killed him over initially doing a good Samaritan thing? Hey, dog busts out of the car. You get him so he doesn't run away, bite someone, get hit by a car, and dies. But there's some lines crossed, and I think it was that groupthink, that group empowerment, that gang mentality. Keep going. He deserves it.
Here's one of the largest problems
I felt
see
bad
with
for
that.
him.
Oh, for sure. Here's one of the largest problems I see with groupthink. When there is an energy to people, it's undeniable that when you're in a group of people, you can feel it. Especially when men are around each other, you can just feel a certain energy. Yeah, that was me. With that, stop. There you go.
What was it? A spring?
I just.
Yeah, that's loud in the headphones.
Yeah. The only person that's going to get in trouble in that scenario is the gentleman who ended up assaulting the other person. So if I'm here and I have 20 other voices in my head saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, and it convinces me to do it, I'm the only one facing repercussion of my actions. They're not doing nothing. They're just, oh, wow, he actually did it. Oh.
So you know what it came down to? I'm not even going to offer my opinion, but what it came down to was constituent, 75-year-old man who I think got violated. He would have had to agree to be charged with animal cruelty if the other guy was going to be charged with assault, and vice versa. I don't think I did this. I didn't do this. I was justified. His action was just, so neither one of them ended up getting charged, and that was the trade-off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of fair, but
yeah.
none of us were there to witness it. So
Right, exactly.
we can't say any.
There's no
any other
camera?
way.
There were cameras. Law enforcement, pulled all that, and the supervisor at the time
Just didn't care to.
made that discretion as, hey, if I'm going to charge subject A, I'm going to charge subject B.
Not
one of
trying to-
you's not getting charged.
So
Not
did
trying
they
to
see
talk
what
down
he did
on
to the
Weiss,
dog?
but I feel like their cameras wouldn't
They
be
couldn't
good.
really see. It was in the car.
He's in the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a tough scenario.
Especially that area.
Yeah, I like to have faith in modern systems and people more or less, and I think there are a lot of people that still give us hope in humanity. I do think in that particular instance that law enforcement probably got it right and it was fair. Either you both get charged or both you can walk away from this. You both messed up, and no one's going to court and jail and fines and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
that's not worth as long as nobody was really hurt over the circumstance of what happened, for sure. But yeah. Sounds like a tough situation for anybody to be in,
Yeah,
especially
agreed.
when you are facing some kind of mob mentality that takes over. It's very dangerous. I try to have faith in people, but at the same time, I know that human beings are flawed, each in their own individual way, but as a species as a whole, we have our flaws. So it's difficult for me to listen to the 79% when I myself think something differently and I'm backed up by information, facts, things like that. I'm not going to just follow the group mottos or
Agreed.
the he ho ho I have a catchy phrase to say. That does nothing for me.
I feel like when
Salem
people
witch trials, hang them, that's
Yeah.
what the mobs, the angry mob's saying. It's like, wow.
I feel like when
doesn't
people
work.
get into these groups, our animalistic nature really tends to show a lot more than when you're with individuals.
We see it when it comes to sports games and things like that. How many times we've heard of cities getting absolutely trashed after their team won the Super Bowl?
Very
Philadelphia
tribal when it
was
comes to
one.
sports
One
teams.
of them,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just that's what happens.
I've
People
never
get in
understood
crowds
that,
and the emotions
destroying the
just
city after
become
you
a
win.
bubble. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't. Like, be excited your team won, but why destroy half the city in the process?
I think it's that animalistic instinct. People want to just go out and act like animals.
The minute they see one person acting like an animal, they're like, oh, that looks fun. Yeah, let's go. Ah.
I kind of feel like it goes even further back to kind of times of invading your adversaries. If you were an invading army, if you won the battle, you would sack the city. So, yeah, our team won. Let's sack our own city. Absolutely.
does
There's a
make a lot of
target.
sense.
Let's break out
But-
the windows and steal all the TVs because the Philadelphia Eagles won.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess.
So there's one question I got here I've been excited to ask. I didn't want to start right off with this one, but it was, how do you ensure transparency and accountability in city government, and what steps are taken to prevent corruption and misconduct?
Great questions. So we talked a little bit, I think, before the mics were on or whatever, the cameras were rolling. Campaign slogans, right? And for me, they're just not campaign slogans. They're guiding principles. So accountability, transparency, and nonpartisan are three guiding principles that I've always used as campaign slogans, but I also delivered on those throughout my whole first term, which I'm currently still in to the end of this year. So how do we ensure it? Well, your representatives have to provide it, and if they don't, you vote them out come election times. Most people know the city got $28 million, and here comes another acronym. We like them, right? ARP, American
ARP.
Rescue Plan, yes. Which, if we remember when COVID first happened, it was all about stimuluses and individuals and businesses. Well, he's got it over there, yeah. So the second round was for municipal governments, counties, cities, towns, and villages stimuluses, right? So I've always kind of been envious of Big Brother, right? Chemung County government. They live stream and broadcast and preserve the recordings, audio and video, of all their legislature meetings. Now, city council is the legislative branch of city government. So if they can do it, how come we can't do it? Well, there's no money. Okay, I get it. Elmira's tough economically, like we were talking, fiscally, but we got $28 million from the Fed. That seemed like the most opportune time. I mean, you guys probably have just as sophisticated, if not more sophisticated, than the Chemung County government. I mean, a camera and 6, 7 microphones for the elected officials and
it wasn't
a
expensive.
connection to the
This
internet.
wasn't hard.
It was a little less than
And-
$2,000 for everything.
Especially with the way cell phones are nowadays. It's perfectly viable to use as a camcorder.
Yeah.
You don't need a $15,000, $20,000,
Not anymore.
shoulder
Not
pad
anymore.
thing. Nothing like that. It's absolutely doable.
So we could have done it. That seemed like most opportune time to. If the only rebuttal was there's no money for it, well, we got a $28 million bucks worth of some money, But it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Except I didn't get the grease this time because we still don't live stream and record our meetings. In fact, they're still really archaic. They record the audio. Public comments aren't even incorporated into that. It's literally just a record of the resolution before us and the voting roll call is
So
the meeting minutes.
Could somebody do it just of their
own volition?
yeah, just
Like I show up to the council
and then
member.
just record it and be like, hey, here you go.
Talking about 1A auditors, free speech, freedom of expression. It's a public building. The government doesn't own anything, right? Because they were afforded it through, prosperity of taxpayers.
Yeah.
And, you have the right to record in public places. I'm not going to say no one will contest you on that. I certainly wouldn't, and I would support you or anybody else who wanted to record and live stream a meeting, absolutely. But if that's what people want, the government owes it to people to give it to them, right?
Yeah.
And if Chemung County government can do it, why can't the City of Elmira government do it?
They absolutely can. I can assure you, just hiring one person and offering them $70,000 a year, they could easily upload every single video onto a channel for you guys, do all of
Hang
the
on,
audio
not to
work,
interrupt you
all
and be
of the
rude.
video work.
We did that. We hired a publicity liaison for the City of Elmira. And guess how we funded that position for 2 years? ARP money.
Cool. So
What
you
else?
had somebody that could have done all of it.
What else was this ARP money spent on?
I voted against it for many reasons. I don't think it was being used in a sustainable way to positively impact people of Elmira that were, impacted by the government's response to COVID. Because we can't blame it on COVID. COVID didn't do all this stuff to us. It was the government's response to the pathogen, not the pathogen itself. But there were some good things. I don't want to harp on the negative, but $2,500 premium pay as an elected official. When I sat home and did my jobs on an iPad that the taxpayer so graciously provided me, I had no increased risk to being exposed to the virus. Now police, fire, garbage, trash, refuse, sanitation, all those people continued to provide services they got paid to provide, and they did have to interact with the general public. COVID was, in the early stages, pretty scary. We didn't know, is this the next plague
terrifying.
that's going to wipe us all out? It was.
That's what we were told, at least.
Yeah, that's what they tell us. Yeah. So there were certain people that were entitled to that premium pay, but I most certainly, and my colleagues most certainly, were not one of them. Again, we were at home doing our jobs on iPads. So that was a big thing, and then just some other things, but just very wasteful. The city reimbursed themselves at the tune of like $7 million for lost revenue, but that was one of the stipulations from the federal government. You could use it, right? But just because you can, should you? I don't know. I don't think so. One couple good things that came from it is they had a property rehab program. So residences could apply for $5,000 grant. You don't pay it back, free money to go improve their house. Where I live, we rent technically, and the property owner chose to do new doors and a new window, which guess what that did? That made my home more efficient. So my utility bill wasn't as expensive.
Nice.
Even before all these increased costs that we're all dealing with NICEAG. Like that helped us out, Some people chose to do new floors in their house. Some people, did siding or did those new high efficiency dual split, heat and AC pumps.
Okay.
I think that's what they're called, dual heat pumps. But regardless, people put money in their properties. Hopefully they used it so they had some lasting impact from it. It also increases property values, right? So without raising taxes, you're expanding the tax base, right? People are contributing more because things are worth more. There was also a commercial property rehab grant where commercial properties could apply up to a $25,000 grant to enhance their commercial properties. Small businesses could apply for a $5,000 grant. apply for it, loss of revenue, keep your people employed, PPE, whatever you chose, but the city literally just handed that out. So there were a lot of good programs. What else did we spend it on? Tourism. There were large, medium, and small tourism grants. Based on, size. The larger ones were like $500,000. So Capriati Properties got $500,000 for Clemens Square. They're going to make a mixed use event space down there, cornhole, more drinking, music, food. There were some other ones like the Elmira Civil War Prison Camp, and then like the John Jones Museum, two sides of our local history, right? Opposite sides, right? And we got to teach history, because if you don't know your history, kids, we're bound to repeat it, right? So I think those were good things, and Elmira needs some positive things to bring tourism here. No matter how small scale they might be, it's something. Right. So they each got like $250K. And then there were some, other ones like the trolley tours. The trolley's been down and out for a couple of years. So I think the Chemung County Historical Society runs that, doing the summer historical tours. They got some money.
Trolley, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I rode on it a couple times when I was a
Where's
kid.
that been?
It's been
a while.
malfunctioning or not functioning for a couple of years, but they got some money. The Chamber of Commerce got some money. Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah, but I do have another one, because it kind of ties into the transparency and something you told me about how they kind of hid it from you.
Oh, the flock camera system. Yeah, we did use the money for that.
I'm interested about those cameras and what the point of them is.
Yeah, so Flock is the company. These cameras, they're apparently only supposed to be automatic license plate readers, but I've been embracing walking and riding my bike a lot. Not just for life reasons, and its repercussion is my decisions, but it's good for me. I enjoy it. The days that I walk to my shop, a 5-minute car ride is a half-hour walk. I get to pass people on the sidewalk that are afraid to say hello to me, even though I smile and wave at them, because that's just where we're at. But I walk through Grove Park, which is in my district. If there's an issue there, I can do the green sheet process and get something fixed or improved, or get it cleaned up, or dead tree gets trimmed or whatever. So I've really been embracing it, and I have great days when I get to ride my bike or walk, and more people should do that if you're able to, and you can. But so why is this thing, as I walk by it, you see a little red infrared light flashing, taking pictures of me? I thought this thing was reading license plates and creating unique identifiers. If you've got like a lifted vehicle with a snorkel on it, or my kid's a Kiwanis kid, or I love my Labrador poodle or whatever on the back. Yeah. And from my understanding, all this goes to a cloud, because they have Verizon 4G LTE and a solar panel on them. Some of them have their own standalone power, but most of them are just solar powered. So I guess, we only have 50% of the sunny days here. I don't know if they only work half the time or what. But it's for crime prevention, like all these false sense of safety.
Have they actually prevented any crime? Or have they solved
allegedly,
any?
according to the mayor, they have helped solve like 2 murders, 2 homicides.
Okay.
I will take his word for that at face value, and if it's helped,
But
it's
it didn't
helped.
prevent them.
Didn't prevent them, but it did lead to convictions. Where otherwise, without them, I guess they couldn't have maybe gotten the convictions.
Okay. Well, that's a fair point.
That's better than nothing.
That's a fair point, but that sounds similar to the Patriot Act, We were told, just let us spy on you guys, and we'll catch some people. Yeah, it's for the greater good.
Yeah.
How about no?
Agreed.
Just how about no?
Agreed.
Yeah.
This is kind of conspiratorial, but also kind of not. Like, I guess one of the worries I have with the cameras being put up everywhere is when you look at China and their social credit system, they have cameras everywhere with facial recognition technology.
Yeah,
is this something we are slowly trying to move into here in America? And you start putting them up slowly and telling people, oh, it's to prevent and to help solve crime. And people are just like, oh, yeah, it's going to help keep us safe. And then the next thing you know, we're being monitored everywhere we go.
It's like a safety blanket that a toddler carries around. That blanket offers them no security whatsoever, but it's the feeling of security. They hang on to it. Well, that's a toddler adolescence, right? At some point, we've got to elevate our consciousness and, accept things for what they are, and not just the smoke and mirrors that we're always given. Okay, crime prevention, safety, okay, all for it. But what about the data in that cloud? What are they doing with it? Are they how's Amazon or whoever has access to it? How's Flock using that?
That was actually going to be my next question.
Creating
what
traffic patterns.
What are they doing with all the footage?
Who are they selling it to?
Exactly.
Do they sell it to China or to whoever wants to institute the digital dollar that, they can just turn you off, and you spoke out against it. So you're, boom, clicked off.
Another
no
question
food
I
for you.
have, if
And
they
they'll
can
know which vehicle is
And
yours.
it's not conspiracy. I don't like that. These are all theories. It's happened.
Yeah.
What was going on in Hong Kong over all this spying and surveilling and the social credit system? People were waking up and toppling these things, and then all of a sudden, the virus, and no one reported on it. It was shut down. And I think that was really part of it, if you want to talk about theories. But
Yeah, I seen a video today. I think it was in China where there was a gate where it scanned your face, and if you weren't smiling, it wouldn't open.
you're not allowed to have bad days anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it was really odd.
They-
I mean,
They've
as much
had
as
a lot of
as
strange
I like to
things
see
happening
people
in China.
smile, they should have the choice to be happy or pissed off.
I've got a terrible, I'm not a good poker player. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And if I'm not saying something that I want to say because whatever, it's not politically correct, my face is going to say it. And then you're going to say, like, why do you have that snake look on your face, Grasso?
I can be in
And
a
it's like,
good.
well, here's what I really want to tell you. Thanks for acknowledging that.
I can be in a good mood and still look like I'm pissed off. I've got what's referred to as resting dick face.
Okay.
So I just, I look angry sometimes, even when I'm not. Like sometimes I'll be reading something on my phone. My wife will be like, "Are you mad about something? What are you reading?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just focused on what I'm reading."
Yeah.
But I look angry. So I did have a question about because the cameras are able to read our license plate. Do you think in the future they'll at all try to use them to issue tickets to people speeding?
So, it's been reaffirmed from, the mayor, city manager. They don't have that capabilities. And I think there's
Told
a
you.
state
Told you.
law.
That's good.
I
That's
think
good
there's a
because sometimes
state
I
law
fly
that
by those
prevents
things.
that from being utilized.
Yeah,
That way.
you can't.
For now, yeah. But the technology is there. It has all the hardware to do all this stuff. So it's really just in the software and the programming about what the user wants to use it for.
So the reason why they can't do it, right? From my understanding, it's a habit of mine. All right, I hold on to
You
it.
got to stop that habit. It's bad podcast etiquette.
You know what? I bet I won't hear it.
I bet you will. My brother brought it up and said it's kind of annoying hearing that. I'm not lying when I'm saying that. Yeah.
All right.
Keep your hands on your knees.
No, I can't. Okay,
You
I
want
have to have
a
a fidget.
skeletor bird or something? No.
So, from my understanding, because there isn't an officer who is at the scene to witness, the traffic infraction, because it's not a crime, they can't do anything about it. It's simply a traffic infraction.
Okay. That
If
makes
somebody
sense.
speeds or runs a red light or something like that. So they're unable to, by law, because there was no officer who was able to witness it.
Directly observe it, right.
Yeah.
They could
In
always
New
change
York
that.
City and
They
California, they could, but it's been upheld by the Supreme Court saying, no, you can't. Like, that's like an invasion of privacy and things like that. In New York City, and I know in California what they've done, is there are third-party companies who will fill out the FOIL forms to collect the data of the videos and then issue tickets on behalf of the city, and that's been a loophole. So there is a video, we've discussed this before, where like people will walk around in these pseudo uniforms to
It was episode
look
6
like,
we talked on that, right?
Yep. So they'll walk around issuing
overreach.
these citations that aren't legally binding at all. Another person will walk up, "Hey, come in with me to this private business. They can't follow you because they're not actually a law enforcement officer." And they obviously don't. I've had this happen with another coworker where they were sent a speeding ticket from New York City, and it said, 9th District, blah, 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 City of New York City, but it had a third-party company on it. I was like, don't ever pay that ticket. You're going to send them the money. They're going to divvy an amount to the city for giving them the information from the camera, and then they get to keep a cut. I can't remember who I seen explain this before, but it's like a third-party contract that companies will have. It's kind of like a mercenary group. They'll have a third-party contract with a city. They'll get rights to collect the data from the cameras. They send out the fines, and if somebody's dumb enough to pay it, the city gets a cut of it.
It's ethically and morally poor, and I don't
Right?
know how legally that's allowed, but
It's one of the things. It's been going on. There's a department of like cleanliness in California. If you throw a cigarette butt on the ground, you can be given a like environmental ticket.
Okay, but what is
technically that's littering.
what is the
but-
Department of Cleanliness doing about Skid Row?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, half of California.
Exactly.
So they can get stabbed
Yeah.
by a random herp needle? No
Oh
thanks.
man, yeah. tent cities, the homelessness issue out there. I mean,
Terrible there. Philadelphia.
It's its own city.
I
Portland.
seen this dude on YouTube, Tyler Oliveira.
I love Tyler Oliveira.
He went to Kensington.
Yeah, it's bad there.
I thought Elmira was bad, but we're
So he's checked out a place
beautiful
in
compared to
he's
them.
checked out a place in Hawaii,
I've seen that. I watched like 10 hours straight of his
Portland. I
videos.
think they went to. He goes.
I just seen one
What's
on
the guy's?
Alaska.
Yeah,
I just
he
seen
went to
one on
Alaska
Alaska.
for
Yep.
one where people are
They
freezing.
they keep
Who's
kicking.
who's the
camps
gentleman
out.
he does those videos with? I forget that gentleman's name or his YouTube channel, so we could give it a shout
But
out.
it's getting bad. There are
Let me check real quick.
cities worth of homeless people, and they're being addicted to trank, fentanyl.
Yeah, some
all
areas
these
it's like
other things.
1,700
It's
in one encampment.
So
awful.
It's
I-
that's a small village.
I used to be a huge proponent of decriminalize all drugs until I started seeing what was going on in like Portland, Oregon, and it's like,
This is why
okay,
we
maybe
have
I
laws
retract that.
against murder.
Maybe I
Like-
retract that idea a little bit, because when you decriminalize everything and people can just get high with, I don't think wanting to get high or getting high makes you a criminal, but the decriminalization of all the drugs has made the drug issue even worse in places like that. Now, it may spike and then go down, because like when you look at Portugal, they did it in 2001. They decriminalized all drugs. And now their drug addiction and overdose rates are extremely low. So it might just spike a little bit because it's a new thing, and then people might see what's happening and be like, maybe the next generation will be like, holy shit, man, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to take those things. That's terrible.
Right.
so kind of getting back to you, I know you're a Marine veteran, not to sound cliche, right? But thank you for your service, right?
you.
Because that's one thing that I don't have the cojones to go do, and you went and did that for so many of us that don't. It's only like 1% of the U.S. population ever serves in the armed forces. But PTSD, I know that's something that you're adamant about, and affected by, and self-awareness, all this. But so many of our veterans come back from their services and they have these psychological disorders, and I don't think big pharma and healthcare currently can appropriately address these things, right? So out west, they've been experiencing with like psilocybin mushrooms and ecstasy.
Those
with
I'm big
great
proponents
success.
for. Ketamine
and
as well.
ketamine. So in a controlled environment, and all the proofs there. Again, I'm not a professional, but I've
We've seen the studies.
we've
It's
seen
working.
It's working.
The
and with tremendous
multidisciplinary
success.
the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. It's MAPS, not the other MAPS, but this MAPS.
Is this another acronym?
Yeah, it is.
that I don't know?
Yep.
You don't want to know that one.
Okay.
Yeah, the other MAPS is it's minor attracted persons, which is
yeah,
why I hate calling the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies MAPS, but that is their acronym. They're the ones I first read a study on with MDMA and PTSD patients, and of course it was just small scale at first. And I'm going to give a shout out to Dr. Bronner's, because Dr. Bronner's, the soap company, they donated $5 million to that study. But I believe it was 85% of the patients that were in the study, after 3 controlled trials or 3 controlled sessions with their therapist on MDMA, they no longer qualified for PTSD. That is amazing.
That's success.
In my opinion, that's a cure. That's not something that's just creating a customer that has to come back every single month to refill their prescription.
But Adam, then there's no money in it.
Exactly. That's why you won't see psilocybin and possibly mescaline or even LSD as viable options for a while.
We would, but they're going to extract the compounds, make them weak enough to where it's a lifetime drug.
Yeah, they have
That's
to find a way to
a
monetize
problem
it.
with big pharma.
We just treat, there's no cures anymore, because then you don't have a customer for life. There's no job security. We just treat. We can treat the side effects, right? And the treatment we give you might have these other, you might shit your brains out, have thoughts of suicide. We know that's why you're here, because you probably already have that, but it'll be a lot less, right? I mean,
How many times you see commercials for some kind of condition?
The side effects are worse
we'll cure you of your multiple sclerosis, but 45 side effects, and then the very same company,
3 pages worth.
then the very next commercial is the exact same company treating one of those side effects.
Right.
Okay,
I
we
also-
get it. You're all about the money, and this has
Yeah.
become a problem.
I don't think you
especially
should
in
be
our
able to advertise medications for anxiety and depression either.
We're the only country that does
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
One
we,
of
we
one of
absolutely
few.
should take it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Europe doesn't allow medications on their television.
Just like tobacco, we
I
should
didn't
take
know that.
medications clean off. We should not advertise that. You know how sick that is to advertise medications.
I feel like
People go to
that-
the doctor and be like, I saw this TV. I
Yep.
want that. And
Yeah.
what are doctors? They're quick to.
oh yeah.
You got
I
a-
have
a
an issue with
beautiful
doctors
butterfly
because
and-
it was in 2018 my mental health sank, and part of it was due to my own reasonings with some certain substances I should have never played around with. But that's when I started going to therapy. But when I was seeing my primary care physician, I asked him if he could refer me to any mental health specialists in the area. And the first thing he says to me after I ask him, no asking me symptoms or what I'm experiencing, he immediately says, do you want me to prescribe you an antidepressant? And it's like, well, how do we even know I'm depressed? Maybe that's not the issue. It could be something else that's just causing me to be depressed. That's why I want to just talk to somebody and figure shit out.
It doesn't just want to, here, take this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
And-
take those for too long, you can't get off them.
Well, I made the mistake of
SSRIs and stuff.
I
it
made the
makes-
mistake
it
of
can make it worse.
being medicated for ADHD, and I feel like Adderall destroyed me. It stole my natural joy and the things I like to do, and I feel like it actually made my mental health worse. And luckily, through a couple LSD trips and continuing to go to therapy, I was able to pull myself out of that and get back to a better mental state. So they don't ever tell you about how Adderall can steal your natural joy.
Oh, before I forget, that dude's name is Kevin Dahlgren.
Did you get his YouTube channel name by chance?
He doesn't have one. I don't believe.
Oh, he
so. I
does,
think
yeah. Tyler Oliveira has shouted it out. I think I follow it. I'll see if I can find it real quick.
I've seen his Instagram. That's the only thing that popped up.
With all the problems that we do experience with like the pharmaceutical
check.
industry, we could always just take the route that Canada has, and start offering unaliving booths and stuff like that.
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
to go
Isn't
down.
it?
very much.
Oh yeah,
I can't believe
it's,
that's
truth on the
actually
streets.
something they've
Suicide,
done.
homicide,
That's the one.
essentially.
Yeah,
right?
just
Death by
subscribe to
doctor.
that.
Isn't there don't they have an oath to do no harm, but somehow they've found a loophole to say that this is health care?
Mhm.
Like, it's the end of life. That's not health.
Yeah.
It's so weird how things have gone full circle. Just 15 years ago, we were screaming about like end the death penalty because it's not right to kill people, and now people are like, well, I'm sad, so
Right.
how have we gone this far?
They do that in Canada.
That's what we were just talking about. Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
like the assisted suicides.
Yeah.
So my own depression, I wouldn't say was a mental health disorder or a disease. My depression personally was a symptom of life circumstances and the situations I was in. And I think a lot of people just need to look at their life and where they're at in the mirror before actually trying to be medicated for something, because there's plenty of people I know that, obviously me with Adderall, but other people with certain antidepressants where their quality of life got much worse after being medicated. And that's, again, why those people won't take any other pharmaceutical medications, because it made them worse.
So agreed, but the levels of consciousness and self-awareness, personal responsibility, a lot of people aren't capable of that, and you can't knock them down, beat them up for it. And then the other aspect of it, we went to a doctor, we went to this institution, the system, because they're supposed to help make us better, right? And I think that's where all the questioning in all life systems and institutions here, where we see the deficiencies and the fallacies, and we want to make them better, right? Because we want it to exist for the betterment of our fellow human beings. But as we get more transparency and, activists and advocates, uncover the truth, it's like, man, this is so far perverted, and we've gotten so far away from the original intent that it's like you can't help but to blame people that they don't have confidence in modern systems. Or imagine confiding in it and then to find out that they did you such a terrible disservice that you came to that realization of. I mean, that's a lot to arrive at that realization on their psyche.
Well, I was also having some other weird side effects that they were actually testing me for multiple sclerosis in the beginning of 2023. And then as soon as I quit taking the Adderall in January, a lot of those side effects went away. And when I went back to my doctor again and told him, yeah, I'm not experiencing these side effects anymore, it was then and only then after I had quit taking the Adderall that he said, oh, yeah, maybe it was the Adderall causing some of those symptoms.
Do you think he knew it all along?
I
but
wonder
that's
if he
something
did,
they don't
but
want to admit?
yeah, I've often wondered if doctors somehow get some kind of kickback or bonus or incentive for
how it
prescribing
works.
enough medication.
So I remember that was happening in the early 90s with a lot of painkillers. How we had
Oxycontin,
that.
terribly.
Yeah.
Doctors were getting special promotional things through these pharmaceutical companies. If you prescribe this to so many people, we'll give you a
The
bonus
vacation
or
in
a
the
grant.
Bahamas, 25 grand.
Yeah,
You know, all
special
that stuff.
things like
We've
that.
had local examples of that, of pain management doctors still, like, up until recently, that still overprescribe. And then
Really?
and then they cut people off. And what are Oxycontins and heroin? They're all opiates, right?
Yeah.
So you can't get it from the legal FDA approved doctor. So what do people do? Because their body needs it
They
to
go on
maintain
the
their
street.
homeostasis. They go to the street to get that because, I mean, withdrawals
Or they
with that
buy
stuff
it off
is-
other people, which is
Yeah,
illegal
it used
and
to be
dangerous.
super easy
And
to
then,
get it.
do you know what you're buying? You know, is it laced with fentanyl? Did it come from China? Who, you know, they're trying to kill Western civilization allegedly, right? I mean, it's
they
just
are, for sure.
a wild, vicious cycle, man.
It is. It's become very dangerous because when it comes to a lot of things like the psychological movements in Western society, where a lot of people have been convinced that anxiety and depression are a chemical imbalance. It's not natural.
The
When
chemical
it
imbalance
is-
theory is actually not proven, so it's kind of a myth.
Yeah, but that's what we've been told, right? A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people have been convinced that being depressed is a bad thing, having anxiety is a bad thing.
I like
These are-
anxiety.
But these are natural things to being a human being.
Keeps me
Like
on edge.
you naturally growing up feel anxiety during different aspects or different trials and milestones in your life. The first time you ask a girl out, that's anxiety.
It's normal, yeah.
Like
That's to be
it's
expected.
absolutely normal.
Well,
there
yeah.
are sad moments in life. You're going to lose a family member. You're going to go through the 5 steps of grieving, and that is a form of depression. These things are normal. That doesn't mean just because you're depressed, oh, we're going to put you on pills. That's an awful way to look at it. And for some reason, a lot of us here in Western culture still haven't caught on to the problems that we see with the pharmaceutical industry.
Agreed.
It's clear that there's very big money getting pushed around, and we just need to start saying, get out of here. We're done. Like, just from personal experience, the pharmaceutical industry destroyed my family. My mother and my father both. Lives ruined from it. I basically had no parents growing up because they
same.
were zombies.
They're there
on this
physically,
stuff.
but not emotionally and mentally.
Like it's difficult to come home and just see somebody
Comatose.
for 7 hours.
Yeah.
You didn't. I didn't
Painkillers,
have a
muscle
parent,
relaxers,
so it's,
patches.
Yeah.
Benzodiazepines.
and then finally when they're off of it, it's like, okay, now I have to deal with violent outbursts. That's fun.
Yep, when you got a parent that'll take his whole month's prescription in 10 days or 12 days, and then, the
Withdrawals.
first 10, 12 days, he's in a great mood, but too high to go play with you or play catch or anything. And then for the next 2 weeks after that, oh man, you better watch every step you take. It's like walking on eggshells because one wrong move, you're going to piss them off severely.
Are you guys hot?
It's a little warm, but I like breaking a sweat.
That's wild because I got this brand new hoodie, and oh my god, it's so good, and it keeps me very warm. But right now, I'm not overheating.
I'm
You're
always
still
cold.
a smoker though, right?
Yeah,
I've been
I
much
am
warmer.
always cold.
I've been much warmer since I quit smoking cigarettes back in September.
Is my camera still recording? We've been going for a while now.
We're about an hour 47 minutes.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
Really?
my circulation's been much better since I quit smoking. But yeah, time flies when we're doing this podcast. There's been times where all of a sudden we look at it and it's like, oh, we're 2.5 hours in.
Yeah,
Is there a time
fun.
cap or what?
I don't
we
think
just
so.
go.
Okay.
Just kind of
In
go.
the we're
I
just
like this.
starting
Thanks
out.
for asking me to do this, giving me the opportunity.
Oh,
for
not
sure.
a problem, man.
I mean, we would absolutely love to have more people around town involved, more people that are involved in government, maybe police officers or just small business owners. Like,
I'll help spread the word.
This is obviously the future. Like podcasting and thing like that. It's obviously the future.
Jesse,
which I think is like.
Can you just make sure we're still all in the frame since that moved a little?
Which I think is another form of like the government basically convincing us, oh, you have the freedoms, but we're basically. You're spying on yourselves for us by doing this. Like we're constantly on camera.
Or
for sure.
Up in Canada, they're having issues where if you're a giant
you're not even allowed
podcast,
to.
you have to basically register as like a news organization. I want to take a quick break
Really?
though, so Jesse can show the audience his new office cat.
Yep, the new shop employee.
How much you paying her?
She gets paid in everybody's affection.
Oh, that's a good payment.
She's a she?
Yeah.
She's got a really cool pattern to her.
Yeah, that's why I picked her out. She's got a bunch of different colors and.
Where'd you get her? Did you rescue her from somewhere? Or?
My cat, my sister's cat had kittens.
Oh, okay, cool.
She's got a
She's
little,
gonna have gray eyes.
she's got a little
That's
golden
adorable.
beard.
We've got two cats, a brother and a sister. One's a functional Kai the Hunter because he brings us snakes. We live down by the river, not in a
Nice
van.
gifts.
Pretty
But
dope.
birds, chipmunks, mice.
I had
He's
a
a
cat
very
that did
functional
that.
cat. And the other one, the sister, she's indoor only.
Oh, is she a shoulder cat?
Oh yeah.
Are your cats shoulder cats?
One of them is.
My cat used to be,
Kai
then
the
she got
Hunter,
lazy.
I
The
had a
other
cat that
one's-
brought home a rabbit once.
Wow.
Yep. She caught a rabbit and it was running around the house and.
A live rabbit.
Yeah, live rabbit. Yep.
Oh, she's gone. She's out
Yeah.
of there.
She's going for Adam's headset wire next.
I haven't got her off of chewing stuff yet, so I didn't want her to.
Yeah, she's still young. It's
Yeah.
acceptable for a little while longer, right?
Yep.
At least tolerable.
Yeah.
She's loving these head scratches. Okay, go be free. I'll
Alright.
set you down. That's a long jump. For a little kid. I guess I can bring up another one of these questions. This one, I guess I'll ask this one. It's a little more personal. I wanted to ask you if you could share any accomplishments or initiatives that you and the council have undertaken to improve the city.
I've got a couple, not as many as I'd like or hope to, because unfortunately, when you're the noisy disruptor, new kid on the block, you're a super minority, and well, we all know how that works. One thing I'm really proud of is there's been a stormwater issue in the first district on Facet Road, and I represent some of the wealthiest people in our city that pay the highest amount of property taxes. I also represent some of the poorest at the easterly boundary of the first district. The first district is really just a lot of retirees, blue collar, working class, families. But we do have both of the extremes in the first district. But Facet Road, where some of the people pay the highest property
There's
tax in
some
the city.
big houses along that road.
Yeah,
That's all behind
some
the
that
FA?
pay. Yep, that area. Yep. Pay more than some businesses who generate millions of dollars in revenue pay because of pilots. That's who I represent. So I kind of have to be accountable to everybody, and I like that. But there's been a stormwater issue there for about 40 years since all the new housing developments in the town of Elmira started to come. All that water gets shed down into the city, people's yards, basements, raw sewage comes up their bathtubs and their sinks and stuff. But it's been a problem for longer than I've been alive, and good old excuse, there's no money for it, right? So one positive thing that came from the ARP funds was a $3.5 million stormwater project that should alleviate that issue for those people in that area. One good thing at the time that I think was really good, and not to get into national politics, but we've been all over the place, which I like. Early on in the Ukraine conflict, a good friend of mine, he's from the Ukraine. He came here in the 7th grade. He's a normal blue-collar working guy like the rest of us. He still has family in the Ukraine, and he's like, what does the PD do with their old, helmets and vests and stuff? Come to find out, they go to the landfill, the incinerator. They get shredded, they get destroyed. Once they're past their shelf life, that's what happens to them. So there were like 30 flak vest jackets, 15, 20 helmets, a couple other odds and ends that were destined for the landfill, right? Going to get scrapped. So we worked to get them sent over there to someone that I know their family's on the front line. So we can talk about all the different theories about what's going on over there, whatever, but these are real human beings. And if your, uncle or cousin or grandmother need a vest because buildings are blowing up around them, well, if we've got them, send them. You know what I mean? These are real people. We didn't send them over to some questionable unknown organization or, neo-Nazis, whatever people speculate. You know what I mean? These were real people being affected by this. And if they saved one life, that was a win. Me and my friend and the law department did most of the footwork with that. Unfortunately, politics comes into play even at the local level, and the mayor assigned that as council as a whole sponsorship, where it really should have been sponsored by me. But I'm not really a big camera guy, fame and glory. That's not why I do this. I just want to get shit done, and I don't need any credit for it.
Yeah, as long as it got done, you don't mind.
Yeah, and in any capacity, that's my take.
But it sounds like he just kind of like swallowed up some of the attention for it. Like he had something to do with it.
Yeah, and the council people who didn't do anything, it was council as a whole got the sponsorship, which that's fine, whatever. The one thing I really hope to do, I'd hope to get it done before this election because it could have been an election issue. But in the city of Elmira, you cannot have any animals, chickens in particular, no livestock, right? Because cities higher population densities, hygiene issues. But
a lot of people want chickens right now.
A lot of people want chickens, and they should be able to have them, because if we learned anything the past 3 years, the whole COVID and the government's response is supply chains and food costs and dozens of eggs that cost $9, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we empower people to provide their own food for themselves if they choose? And you can do it in a responsible way that doesn't affect your neighbor. We don't have roosters after quiet time, just like you can have a crazy raging party with music blaring at 12 at night. You can't have roosters clucking away. So very easily to mitigate the concerns. I'm not really one to try to legislate morality, right? Because I don't think you can do that. And then you always have the opposite effect of whatever you tried to do, the intent thing. But we require people to license their dogs and require proof of vaccinations in order to get a license, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying maybe we have to license our chickens, but as long as it's kept in a clean manner and it doesn't become a nuisance, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah, if you're
don't
renting
on
an
other
apartment,
people's freedoms.
You can't have 20 chickens in your apartment.
No,
but chickens are just fantastic for many different reasons.
Keep ticks away. I live down by the river.
They're
I'm
very good
hypersensitive
pest
against
control.
ticks.
They will eat every bug. They don't care. They even eat mice. It's kind of creepy to watch. To watch a rooster kill a mouse, they look like a velociraptor.
I'm gonna have to look that up on YouTube.
That's where
see
they
if
came
I can
from,
find
right?
that.
Yeah,
they're evolved from dinosaurs.
They will actually just sneak up on them and whoosh, it's kind of creepy.
I didn't know that.
I'm at my buddies. I'm gonna have to.
They do not discriminate.
See what happens.
Yeah, they do not
Can
discriminate.
you come where we record it so we can see too?
It's
is that only roosters, or will chickens do it too?
Right, chickens will do it too, but roosters are just better because they're a little bit more violent.
yeah,
They'll
more
actually
aggressive,
do the whole like kick stomping thing and everything.
Ooh.
It's kind of brutal.
Well, they're anatomically equipped to do that,
do
right?
it,
As
yeah.
opposed to a chicken.
For the talons and to just kick with the feet and then peck at eyes. That's what they do. It's but yeah.
So I want to
a lot
get that
of
done.
people with
I
chickens.
unfortunately haven't been able to get it done. It would have been a hard sell to whatever word we use, adjectives we use to describe the status quo. But it's like a nuisance things for some people, and they can't see beyond what they know. So maybe with this change, it would be easier to get a majority to get legal chickens in the city so people can procure their own food.
It would be nice.
Yeah,
I
I'd like
think
to
the
do that just
government-
for a learning experience for my kids too, so they can learn how to
Extra
care for an animal and
responsibility.
procure food, eggs.
I think I'm a bit of a pessimist when it comes to government control. So
Me too.
the more autonomy the people have, the less control they get to have. So,
I like that.
I
love that actually. That's
Oh,
the
you want to
libertarian in
be
me.
you want to be self-sufficient? Then that means I can't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
So, it would be nice though, like just having an extra little responsibility, plus that will keep people off their phones a little bit more because you'll have to tend to animals and things like that. Plus, chickens are pretty cool.
They are.
They're good
Apparently,
pets.
they can be pretty affectionate too. I mean,
They're good
there's
pets.
a saying, "Don't bite
They
the
are.
hand that feeds you." Apparently, they know that. So
They definitely do. They definitely do.
But then we're gonna bite the whole chicken that we're feeding eventually.
I don't want to eat the chicken. I just want to collect the eggs that they
I'll
produce.
definitely eat the chicken. I got a feeling
yeah,
when
I
you
li-
eat a real chicken, that stuff at the store, you're gonna be like, never again.
If I can make
Never
my
again.
Maybe.
if I can make my own chicken and broccoli at home on Mondays before coming here, so I don't have to hit up the Chinese place every time, save myself some money. It's like my pre-podcast ritual. I go get some chicken and broccoli from the Chinese place here, and then come down and get all my notes
I wish
ready.
I would have known that. I'm getting kind of hungry, but
Yeah, it is about dinner time.
It is about.
They don't close till 9:30.
Oh, they're open that late?
Mhm.
Okay. Man, that's one thing I miss pre-situation is like 24-hour Walmart.
Yeah.
And, Pudgy's being open till 1 in the morning. They're only open till 10 now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe midnight on the weekends. Poor Domino's, so y'all started staying open like later. Y'all are open till 3 a.m. on, at least you guys
It's always
are.
been 3. It's
No, when I
Yeah,
worked there
they
before, it used to
changed
be 2.
3 in what 2015.
Okay, so it's a little while
yeah,
back.
it used to be 2 a.m.
2 a.m.,
and then it's
maybe
so
demand
long.
increases. There were less places to get some eats late night. Someone saw the need and they're filling it.
But unfortunately, during the whole situation, this whole idea about getting the extra stimulus because of, you're
Essential.
essential workers and things like that. So some people got sent home for weeks on end and were getting paid an extra $600 while we burger flippers were basically given the middle finger and said, "Pff, you're at the bottom of the rung. Get
Yeah,
out
the
of here."
minimum wage
People were making
essential
more
workers.
sitting home than
So-
people
Yeah.
who were actually working.
It was like 50% additional to whatever their check
The
was.
minimum
Yeah.
wage essential workers got screwed the hardest during the pandemic.
But a
Yeah.
lot of employers are starting to feel it now with this whole quiet quitting thing and stuff like that. People are just saying, there's nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work for a company that is going to tell them to go screw themselves, especially during a situation where we were essential.
Yeah.
Essential for
I
what?
don't know about you,
for you to
but
keep your doors open?
all of our jobs are pretty essential to all of our like mere existence, right? So
Yeah.
who the heck is the government to say you're essential, you're not essential? It depends on if you want to submit or not. You can,
Yeah.
Also, people are sick of working 35, 40 hours a week and then barely being able to
scraping
get by,
by.
barely
Yeah.
able to pay rent. They pay rent and food, and then they've got money for almost nothing else.
And life can't be all about just paying the bills. There's got to be
Work
You
and
got to find
die.
that balance.
There's
some
more to it.
enjoyment, some pleasure to enjoy life because there's so much more than just money and all this rigmarole that we've all been like submitted
Why,
to
this guy
subscribe
is
to.
so lucky. He's working, owns a business, doing exactly what he loves, and I'm
Yeah.
so fucking jealous.
That's what it's about. If you got a passion and you can figure out how to make money with it, that's where it's at. Now, there's no guarantees. You will go without, do I pay my shop rent or do I pay my mortgage? Well, if I pay the shop rent, the bank will wait. They're not going to come take it because they just want their money. But if I pay my shop rent, the promise to make $1 tomorrow for it to get better, that exists. And there's some realities I had to face of, being in business for 11 plus years, but it's been so worth it.
Yeah.
That's
It's
part
just-
of why I wanted to do the podcast too, because I spent a whole decade from the time I got out of the Marine Corps, and I think I said it on the first episode where I'd have these burn and learns. People come over, let's smoke a bong and let's just talk. And it's like, man, if I had cameras rolling for the last decade, I probably
have
have
a
a
lot
ton
of footage,
a lot
yeah.
of content
A lot
that I
of
could have
footage.
uploaded. So,
Yeah.
but it's never too late to start.
A lot of people are very, very, very terrified to take the leaps and bounds that are necessary to put that kind of faith in themselves to, I'm going to go do what I love. And I feel like it's only getting worse because so many people are coddled, just children.
Agreed, yeah.
Even ourselves, we were in the 80s and the whole self-esteem movement started in the 90s.
We
and
were the generation that started participation trophies, right?
I
Everybody
stopped
got
playing
one.
sports after that. I remember
Really?
the first time I had no idea what was going on, but my mother was like, "Oh, we're going to this place so everybody gets trophies." It was like 4 hours, and I was like, "We won. Why is everybody getting a trophy?" Because that's what they're doing now. I'm never playing sports again. This is stupid. We won the championship. Why are they getting trophies?
See, I lucked out and was on a lot of teams that ended up winning championships. So I guess I didn't pay attention to everyone who got trophies.
Yeah.
Although there was one year in Southport Rec, I ended up on like the worst team in the league,
It
and we still got a trophy. It just said that we came in. I think it was like 6th place because I think there was 6 teams that year. So
You participated.
yeah,
Yeah.
Congratulations, you
But-
played.
You get a trophy too.
You shut
That's
up.
one of the big problems I think with educating kids is children aren't learning the importance of failing at things.
You only fail when you stop trying.
Yeah, if you fail several times in your life trying to do things, you know how to handle it. But if you never fail at anything and then at 30 years old you finally try to do something and you fail, you're going to have a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
You're not going to know how to
First
handle
time
that at
dealing with
all.
failure, yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
failing never feels good, but
Yeah.
if you're not used to it,
Builds character, makes you resilient. You learn from your
yeah, you learn.
mistakes.
Resilient,
Yeah, it's a
for
big
sure.
You come
learning.
back better, version 602.0,
Yeah.
Luckily, me and failure are old friends, so I know how
For
to deal. So I know
sure.
how to deal with that whenever it comes around.
Likewise.
And what do they say? You can only fail up. So
Right.
you
I
eventually.
mean, I failed my photography business. I think I talked about that on the Meds episode with Xavier. And it was just simply because I just didn't put enough effort and energy into it. I know I was working another job, but there's so much more I could have done. I don't want to point fingers anywhere, blame anything. You know, there was some people that said they would support our business and never did, but I in no way, shape, or form can blame them. I just simply didn't put enough energy into it. And then COVID rolled around, and we were only open for a little over a year when the situation happened, and then we just decided, like, yeah, we're not getting much business anyways. Let's just shut it down. So
I had another business that I started. It was a cafe. We were in a secured facility up in Horseheads. Started in like October, November of 19.
Oof.
And then March 15th, 16th, whatever day, Emperor Cuomo, former governor, said, 14 days is slow spread. Everybody go home, right? And I worked in a secured facility, and literally my whole customer base went home to work remotely. So, like, that was like midweek. The following week, that Monday, the facility manager's like, Nick, what happened? Where'd you go? It's like, I cleaned out the cafe, like, over the weekend because my customers are gone, George. What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had a assistant
I love how you
manager.
call
I
him
just got-
Emperor Cuomo. That's fitting.
Well, that was kind of the way he
ran
led,
things.
right? Yeah.
I almost miss him.
Comparatively, yes.
Yeah, compared to good old.
Hochul. Well,
I mean, when you look
she was his
Yeah.
lieutenant. So,
when you look at it from
same
a
birds of a
higher up
feather.
perspective in the government, Hochul probably makes a better puppet than Cuomo.
Maybe. Because she's probably not fondling people she shouldn't be.
Well, yeah.
hey, he was just
but-
Italian, don't
Yeah,
you
That's
know?
right. Yeah. This is
Italian
just what
thing.
Italians do with 7 people
Yeah.
that all say the exact same thing. But
Yeah.
don't worry. All you got to do is leave office.
You just resign,
then,
and all the investigation goes away. You could be like that village clerk up in Addison that's been embezzling $1 million over
Yeah,
19
that was-
years and no one noticed.
That was pretty wild. You
wow.
didn't hear about that?
No.
Oh
A million?
man,
Yeah.
over $1 million. It was like, wasn't it like 1.2 or
It
what?
was
a
over
guy.
$1 million. Yeah.
What a
Girl.
guy.
It was a girl.
Yeah.
And she found some very
I'm
very
gonna
clever.
go get me a sugar mama.
Well, I mean, she's probably sitting in jail right now, but
That's all right.
I mean,
She's
she
got it
found-
hiding somewhere.
People don't go to jail in New York anymore. Bail
that's,
reform, man.
that's
Come
true.
on.
That's true. But yeah, she
I
found
like
some.
this guy.
She
He knows what's up.
she apparently found some very clever ways to embezzle this money and not
Creative
get caught. I
accounting.
mean, it took 19 years for him to finally catch
Yeah.
her. So
Which
yeah,
means
like what you
somebody's
said there,
gonna-
creative accounting.
Yeah, 'cause
Somebody's
when you do
gonna talk to
$1,000
her.
here, $1,000 there. Nobody's gonna notice because you're talking.
So you break down
Hundreds of
the
thousands
$1,000,000, $1,000,002, whatever it was, over 19 years, it was like an extra $52,000 a year. Like
That's a whole nother salary.
That is
the average income in the Civil Myers $22,000 a year. Like
That's
yeah,
big.
$52,000 a year is
That's
a whole
big.
other like good salary.
I mean, that's pretty much what the GMs at Domino's are making if you don't include their bonus. Because
no.
Greg told me he's guaranteed $1,000 a week before bonus.
He's a GM.
Well, he's going to be at Corning.
Okay, then yeah.
I feel like at some point, like the more you make beyond a certain level, it does not exponentially make you happier. At some point, it becomes a spending issue and not an earning issue.
So I actually read
And you can live pretty comfortably around here on $50,000 a year. I've lived okay. I mean, granted, I don't have a tremendous amount of debt like most people. I did, but you got to be smart, pay it off,
feel
make
like
sacrifice. But I've
right
lived on
around
like $25K a year before I had kids. Even with one kid, that's what I've made that in a year. And like I'm not getting rich, but we lived okay.
Yeah, some people, a lot of people just have very bad spending habits. They're
Agreed.
eating,
For sure.
they're eating out every day, every other day.
I know somebody who says he's
Buying
struggling,
name brand.
but yet he's bringing in over $100K this year. Like,
Yeah, it's
you
a
don't have any,
spending
yeah,
issue.
you don't have any kids.
Yeah,
like
that
we're
sounds
bringing,
like a
we're probably
spending
going to
issue.
bring somewhere between 52 and 60K into our house this year, and we're quite comfortable.
With no kids, right?
No kids.
Yeah.
But
I'm right
I
about
did read a study.
31, 33, and I live all right.
I did
but
read
if
a-
something happens, I'm kind of screwed.
Yeah.
I read a study a couple years
tough to
ago,
say
and I'm sure
nowadays.
maybe the amount has gone up. I think it was either Harvard or Yale that did the study, and they said with 2 kids in America, the average salary to live happy and comfortable was $80,000
So I think
a
I
year.
saw the same one.
Yeah, it's
That's
probably-
what I was referring to.
Yeah, it's probably gone up a little bit since I read that study because I think that was pre-situation. So
Pre-situation.
I was actually
Yeah,
going to
just we
say
call it that.
Situations.
right around 70 to 80 sounds like very comfortable living.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
with
you could be fine.
I feel like with
Modest
2
house,
kids, you
decent
should
car,
be fine.
Yeah.
You can pay your bills. There's some extra
Have some
income
recreational stuff to do.
right.
Vacation,
Maybe
Yeah.
actually save.
Invest, do a
Yeah.
little bit of that,
yeah,
and
stocks.
as long as you don't, hey, I'm going to have lobster 3 times this month. No,
Right.
bro, don't do that.
Or if you
Right.
don't have a $500-$600 car payment when you're only making $15-$16 an hour. Like I was smart enough to get my car payment. It's like I think it's $259 a month. Where there's somebody else I know that just recently bought a new car and his car payment's like $560 a
Well,
month.
the
It's like,
rates right
ooh.
now are just like
I have
even with
heard
good-
that they're
you know,
high.
it used to be like for top tier credit, 0% financing for 60 months or whatever. It's like now the top tier offers like 3 or 4%. So like, can you imagine with someone just like average or below average, a little bit damaged credit, which you know what I mean? It's
It can be rough.
crazy.
Yeah, I know
Definitely
somebody
never-
with no credit, and he's paying $539 on just like a 2018 sedan.
What's
Yeah.
do you happen to know what his interest rate is?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't
Probably high if he had no credit.
It's
Yeah.
probably killing them.
Yeah, because I had a
Like
weird
10
issue.
plus.
I had a weird issue with my credit.
Is that though?
It's pretty backwards.
Like,
But I had a weird issue with my credit when I went to finance my car where one of my scores was a 0 because I hadn't taken out a loan or anything in a decade. So when I went to Simmons Rockwell, they came back at me with a 14.9 interest rate. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to my credit union. And it's funny, the guy tried to do everything in his power to get me to not go to the credit union because they can actually make more money upselling your interest rate than they can selling you the car.
So
So I go to my credit union and my credit union came back at me with a 4.7 interest rate.
10% difference.
So he was standing to make a lot of money off me with that.
So I used to sell cars at new car stores, and I'm not going to name names, but car dealerships, especially new car stores, can do something called holding points. You might qualify for 4%, but guess what they're not going to do? They're not going to extend you what you qualify for. They're going to extend you what they think they can make the most amount of money off of. So this kid probably doesn't know, didn't go to his credit union, didn't go to his bank, doesn't know what his score is, what he qualifies for. Go out there, show him 14%, And most people being naive and inexperienced and unknowledgeable, they sign right up for it.
yeah.
So I worked at a small used car dealership that did guaranteed credit approval, right? So we worked with people that had damage, no credit, bankruptcies, repossessions. And legally in the state of New York, the finance company, we just sold the cars, but the financing they signed up for, they had like 24 and 25% interest rates.
How is
people-
that
I've never
possible?
And people would sign up for it, and it's all down payment driven, so a huge down payment and then crazy interest. I couldn't believe how many people would do it. And the business is still in business to this day, and they still do guaranteed credit approval.
Crazy.
That's wild to think
Yeah.
that. It just sounds
That's
like
credit
people
card
don't
interest rates.
understand like how interest rates work.
If you're going to
Well,
be
there's no home ec or civic classes or financial literacy that's taught in school. I mean, when I was in
Sure,
middle school, 6th through 8th grade, there was home ec. We talked about getting a bank account, a checking account, how to balance a checkbook. We talked about credit. We learned how to bank. We learned how
do
to
they not do that anymore?
No,
know.
I think
Stopped
they got
shortly after.
I don't remember anything about like
They took the
learning
funding
about
away for it.
credit
Damn.
or
My
anything like that.
sister's
I remember how to write
4
a
grades
check
below me,
in
and she
home ec.
didn't.
I still write checks. I don't like all the auto pay stuff now. Send me a bill and I will mail you back a check or I will deliver it in person. I'm kind of old school in that regard.
The only check
'Cause
I
just
write
don't
is for the
trust
rent here
automatic payment.
because he's like 82 and
Oh,
he
okay.
doesn't know any other way.
He doesn't know.
I'm like, can I
that.
cash app you?
Doesn't
It's
have
so much easier.
Cash App, Zelle, what?
No, my
I
landlord
want nothing to do with Cash App, Venmo, none of that tracking stuff. Out of here with that.
My landlord asked me to Cash App him the rent one time, and I told him, I was like, I don't have Cash App, Venmo. I don't have none of that, man. I deal in cash here.
Yeah, none of that.
So as a business, you've got to you kind of have to accept all those things, or else if you don't, customers can't do business with you, because that's what a lot of people are doing.
It's just the trends of younger generations. Unfortunately, they get tricked into accepting this crap, and then we have to adjust for it, because it's all right, a huge portion of the market is using this one thing that I don't want to use, but now they're using it.
That's what I did when I was doing mainly online sales. I had to get Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, because some people would only use Venmo, some people only Cash App, and
Which
I'm
is wild.
all
Why
right,
would
you
you
gotta get them all.
company track
It's weird how
everything
some
you
people
buy?
trust some, but not others.
Yeah.
Right? I trust PayPal more than Cash App. They've been around longer. They're more credible or verified or whatever. But
Wasn't it? PayPal
I don't trust
is
anybody
owned
except
by-
me and maybe
they're owned
my
by eBay.
credit union with my money.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
So which one was it that Elon bought or he created?
a payment method?
I believe so.
I don't know.
It was one of them, but I remember seeing people.
Tesla Pay. No.
It's just people
I don't know either.
were so.
Oh, I thought
on board
Elon
with
created
him for
PayPal
so
back in
long.
the day. I thought that was originally Elon.
Yeah.
Oh, was it
Pretty
really?
sure
Did Elon
make
I didn't know
PayPal?
that.
I'm
And
pretty
then he
sure
sold it.
Elon
Yeah.
created PayPal and then sold
So
it.
back in the day, everybody was like,
Ah.
"This is gonna take off. This guy is so smart," and now everybody is just, "Oh, you mean the far right extremists who bought Twitter?" Stop it, man! I thought you like electric vehicles.
Yeah,
He's creating the best ones.
Elon's
Yeah,
amazing.
right.
What? And he's sending us to Mars. What is? I don't understand how.
I mean,
some
there ain't nothing
people are
there,
so-
but-
What's the internet service you can get anywhere that he owns?
Starlink.
Starlink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rogan was talking about that. How you can be out in the middle of the desert in Utah, and with Starlink,
In Africa,
you can,
or, you know, in the
you can
Sahara-
actually get on the internet.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
It is fantastic.
Although the Starlink satellites look kind of ugly if they're flying overhead and you're into astrophotography. It's,
Everyone's like, what are all those lights over Horseheads or Elmira? Oh, that's Elon Musk's Starlink.
it looks like almost like just a snake of lights. Like it's just a long, almost like it looks like there's
They're visible.
It could be
with
like
the
a-
naked eye, just looking up.
At times they are, yeah.
yeah.
I've never.
You
seen
can-
it. Interesting.
I don't know if they've flown over this area recently, but yeah, if it's flying overhead and
They
you can
were,
see it, it
'cause
just looks like a long line of lights. And
Is there a
I've seen
website
it.
tracking them to where, hey, if you're in this area, you can see them
don't
today?
know.
And that's
I just know-
specifically Starlink.
I just know Starlink and other satellites have become a real problem for astrophotographers that do the long exposures because
They have to
while
edit them out.
while the stars aren't moving, you can see the satellites flying by in the picture. So,
Doing the time lapses, right?
yep. Well, the time lapse video, but even just an extended shutter speed, where if you're trying to allow more light into the camera to get the stars to show up better, you can set your camera to do a 1 minute shutter, and
So
instead of a
picture every
video,
1 minute over a period of time.
instead of a video, it's just a long exposure picture, which allows so much more light in, so you can see some stars that are barely visible to the naked eye. You can see them better, and though the stars don't move in that 1 minute, if there's a satellite coming overhead, you can see the light from the satellite streak across the picture. So
I mean, then that would just kind of look like an asteroid, right?
yeah, it could, but when there's 12 or 13 of them in one photo, it looks. I've seen a couple
Starts
photos
to-
that look pretty bad.
Starts to look a little artificial.
Yeah.
So Starlink did pass over here recently, because I remember everybody in Elmira's crazy group was all
Probably thinking it was a UFO.
tons of engagement on the post. Yeah, that's what it was. UFOs is what
Yeah.
everyone thought it was.
I
Yeah.
definitely believe that.
Oh yeah, I saw
It was
that.
somewhat
there
over
was
the summer, maybe.
There was another thing. I believe in Texas, people were like, "Rah, look, it's the aliens," and it's just the low orbiting satellites. And it was like,
Wait, so are there aliens or they're not? Didn't the government declassify stuff? That
If
Oh,
the
there's
government-
there are
definitely
aliens.
If the
There are,
government
right,
is
yeah.
now coming out saying there's aliens, I don't know if I believe them.
I always believe. the
Touche.
opposite.
I feel like there's some kind of agenda being pushed or slowly ushered in with this alien talk.
contrarian on purpose.
Well, so I've heard some pretty wild theories that they're going to use aliens to falsely,
Project Bluebird.
to make it look like the Book of Revelations.
Images, right?
Yeah.
I guess this one guy was explaining that they want to make it look like the Book of Revelations is happening, even though it's not, and they're going to use aliens to somehow help bring about a false Messiah
saw that
that
theory,
actually
too.
even looks like Jesus. I mean, there is something that people call the Great Deception. It's like if somebody showed up that looked like Jesus and said
Started
they were some
performing
kind of
miracles and
messiah,
stuff.
yeah, I think a lot of people would fall for it.
Oh, for sure.
But
Especially
Absolutely.
nowadays.
my biggest worry is just a false flag alien invasion to push a one world government forward. I mean, we've got the technology to make it look like there's alien or UFOs in the sky, even if there's not, to project some type of hologram technology. I don't know if you've seen Spider-Man. I think it's Homecoming, the one with Jake Gyllenhaal. But that kind of technology where it looks like something's really in the air, but it's not. And if you just happen to be able to drop bombs on certain big cities at certain times, you could make it look like these alien crafts did it. And now they say, oh, we've been attacked by an outside source or something from outside of this world. We need to come together as one planet. And then most likely people would. They'd put all their differences aside and
They
be
make
like, oh, my
movies
God.
about all that stuff, so it's not
Yeah.
so far-fetched.
They've
you
been
know?
prepping us for a long time.
Yeah, grooming society.
But
yeah.
there's you can find the videos of them, of course. But the drone shows, you've ever seen the drone shows?
We had one up at the mall. Instead of
Yeah.
fireworks one year, we got drone shows, and talk about classical conditioning.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. Where they put these algorithms and mathematical equations into drones, where they just follow a rhythm, and then that's it. They'll do like dragons and spaceships and all this crazy stuff.
I mean,
But
if you
I
want
just
to...
found, I believe it was Lester Holt, and for some reason, I have the video. I'm going to send it to you, Adam. But to do with like Project Bluebird, it was a very short segment on ABC from Lester Holt.
Where he says something nonchalantly and then just says, and
Yeah.
more with that after this.
But it was
I can't
something
remember
to
what he
do with
said.
alien invasions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alien
it was
mothership coming towards
there
Earth.
may be an alien mothership.
He
coming
was
towards
so
Earth. And
nonchalant
so
about it.
Holt, like
nonchalant.
MSNBC,
The way
Lester
he,
Holt.
anchor,
Yeah,
the
just
way he did it
And I'm
was
like,
so
they
nonchalant.
could clip that together with 40 other things like that to say, and this is how we defeated the aliens.
But just his tone of voice, everything. It's and more after the break, an alien mothership seems to be heading towards Earth, and it was just like
I
that,
didn't
like
see that.
like no emotion, anything.
Nobody
like,
did.
What the hell?
But that's the thing.
I don't
It
watch
was on
most of that crap
mainstream-
anyways. To be
I don't-
honest,
I don't
But it was
either.
on mainstream media. So now if a invasion were to happen or something, they could make like a super cut of all these new organizations who like did it and
right.
said this was happening. Oh, we're expecting these
We
people
told
to come.
you.
Exactly. Just like our history books now, you know, like history is hindsight 2020.
The victor writes history, though. Winston
Yes.
Churchill said
Yep.
that. So
But think of how much of our history has been written in such a way, like just the first American Civil War. Nobody really realized what was happening, and nobody understood what was going on. But civil disobedience and things like that was happening for like 15 years before
They're not
anything
gonna put that in
actually
the books.
popped off. But after it all happened, we started seeing these significant things happen. So, oh, this person did this in 1784, but then in 1822, this person did this. We don't see everything that happened in between. We know nothing about it. We just say, this was a significant event, this was a significant event, and this was a significant event that led to this. So Lester Holt doing that is like, well, we told you guys they were coming.
It was just odd how nonchalant he was. But I mean, if you want to,
so
if you want to
strange.
see aliens, I mean, you know, they like your dad said earlier, maybe they are demons, and I don't condone drugs, but you know, a little DMT, you get to see some aliens. Well, a little more than a little. You got to take those 3 big whacks. Again, I don't condone drugs. Don't do drugs. But yeah, I'm actually interested to hear your dad's theory on how those are demons, because it's not the first time I've heard that, and I'm open to it. I just don't necessarily subscribe to that at the moment, but
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to hear about.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people with religious ties say that the extraterrestrial aliens that we're being told about or the extraplanar creatures are just demons.
Some
trying to
religious
trick
people,
us.
anything that's spiritual or mystical or anything, everything to them is demonic or that it's of the devil, and it's sometimes that gets a little annoying to hear. But I mean, you're allowed to believe what you want. You're entitled to it.
What was it called in the 80s? Something panic? Satanic panic? It had to
I
do
don't
with
know.
like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. I think it was called Satanic Panic, where a lot of parents were getting very scared.
There's some
of their
hardcore
kids
religious
being-
folks that won't
Oh,
even let their
yes.
kids read Harry Potter.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that too. Well, she's ultra far right wing now, so Harry Potter's bigoted.
Now she wasn't before.
I do often question how anybody who is a Christian and hardcore believes in Jesus can actually be hardcore right wing. Because if you think about it, everything Jesus preached is somewhat a little more liberal.
At that time, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
2 times.
So it's strange that most of the heavy believers in Jesus are right wing conservatives when Jesus himself, a lot of the ideas he preached were definitely more liberal in nature.
I don't think they're exclusive. There are absolutely people with liberal tendencies who believe in God, for sure.
Definitely.
Not very many.
Sure, it might be like a 60-40 or 70-30.
I'm going to say 80-20 at the top.
Really? 397?
If you're if the center's here and you're here, any far back, there's a very, very good chance you don't believe in a God at all.
Maybe.
Be interesting to see some statistics on that, and how would you collect
Such
an accurate
data.
representation of that? Yeah. You have to survey a lot of people.
Well, actually, no. I think you're being proven wrong just recently with the Israeli.
This right here is only saying.
Oh, man, yeah, look.
There's a lot of people who are on the liberal side who do believe in.
So I don't know how
certain
accurate this
gods
is,
and say different things.
but this is only saying only 13% of Democrats don't believe in God. Maybe it's so much they're not so religious, but they do believe in a higher power. Because I know a ton of people who don't subscribe to any religion, but they do believe in some sort of higher power that man would call God.
I can definitely
How about
see that.
the guy there in Horsehead, U-Haul truck?
Oh man,
Quantico, feds coming in.
So I still don't know a ton about that
hazardous
situation.
Materials,
I just
explosives,
Wait, what happened?
meth. What's
Oh
going
yeah, I
on?
just seen a quick article about that today. What was going on?
Allegedly, this guy got stopped on the way up to Ithaca in a U-Haul truck, and there were explosives in the truck headed to Ithaca. So that prompted
legitimate explosives.
yes.
It's been very vague. I think they've more frequently said hazardous materials, but explosives.
I
Town
remember
and
seeing
Veteran
the
DOT
hazardous
guy
material.
found one on the side of the road or whatever. But I think whatever was in the U-Haul, that's what prompted the search warrant for his home, right across from the Village of Horsehead's Town Hall Police Department. They shut down the whole block. New York State Police waiting for feds, DHS to come from Quantico,
And
Bay,
that,
Virginia.
that
and
block's
somewhere in
been
Texas.
shut down since yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still even
this is really
still today it's
Yeah.
shut down.
So I just kind of speculated that if there was a radical extremist, right, regardless of what side we're talking about, radical extremists exist on both sides of the spectrum. That they were probably, because of what's going on over in Israel, Hamas, Palestine, was going up to maybe with a truck full of explosives. Destination of Cornell, Jewish Center Hall.
Well,
who knows?
They did call for a national
did
day.
call that, yeah.
So
It's just a good thing.
Wild.
It's a good thing they caught the
very
guy before
wild.
he actually got there and hurt some people.
Yeah, the NSA help out with that, or was he just dumb, created, committed a traffic infraction that prompted all this? If
I don't know
he had
how,
not done that, would he have, accomplished what he was set out for?
I don't
mean,
know how
told
true it is,
somebody
but
that was close to him. Hey, this
CNN
is
picked
what I
up and
plan
did
on
a
doing.
story on national news.
apparently the FBI was already in contact with this guy a year or two ago.
Oh, I didn't.
I don't know how true that
When
is. This is
aren't
just what
they
I
in
heard.
contact?
I know. Yeah,
When
so that
aren't
always
they
comes
involved?
up. Yeah.
It's kind of, wasn't it?
It's shocking here locally, though, because we see all this extremism on the national level. Like, we don't think that it's here in our backyard. And this is like, holy cow, right across from Village Hall or police departments. Like, that
But
exists.
wasn't it just 2 years ago? Another U-Haul was stopped in Elmira, and they had 300 some guns.
I didn't.
It was like
I don't know
2.5
about that.
I don't
years
recall
ago or
that
something
one.
like that. I'll have to look into it again, but I'm pretty sure a guy was. Yeah, my phone's up. A guy was
Take a second.
pulled over in a truck, maybe a U-Haul, and he was found to have nearly 400 firearms.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. But I'm sure we'll hear more about this in like 2 years. So
Yeah, or maybe we won't, but
maybe. we'll be distracted by so many other things.
Yeah, we forget about things that happen quite quickly because we're bombarded with so much information nowadays.
With, yeah.
Mhm.
So much. I kind of do wonder what it was like back in the 50s when you would talk with your whole town about the same topic for a week to really flush something out.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just every other day. Hey, did you hear Cardi B's new song? Yeah, I did. It was fantastic. Oh, did you see what Joe Biden said? Oh, what about these people from Hamas?
All I
It's
see
please.
is
What did Joe Biden say though?
3 years ago.
It was
3 years
something
ago,
like
they
that.
found
Veterans Day
narcotics in a
ceremony?
Yeah,
U-Haul.
probably.
That's it.
Man, I can't believe
You said they found
voted
narcotics in the
Grandpa.
U-Haul here?
Yeah. 3 years ago, Elmira police arrested 2 people after narcotics found in a U-Haul. I don't see anything about guns. 2 years ago, there was a bunch of guns and ammo seized in a West Elmira home. That's all I see.
I know a couple of years ago
What's
some
up
people
with
broke
U-Haul?
into a
How
gun
come they
store.
don't use like a Ryder truck or
Oh, because
Penske
U-Hauls,
or
I think
Enterprise?
U-Hauls are the cheapest, aren't they? Like
it's-
$19.95 a day.
They are.
Yeah, but then they whack you for the mileage, like 50, 60
They
cents a
do.
miles. I don't know.
Usually after all said and done, it's about $50-$60 for a day of U-Haul. And Penske's like 200 or something.
Oh,
It's
smokes.
crazy.
That's a lot.
Yeah, because we
That
were
sounds dumb.
we were asking around, we were calling around, and we were like, "There's got to be something cheaper than U-Haul."
Well, where is
not
the
even-
closest
not even close.
Penske place around here?
Horseheads.
Grand Central.
Yeah, I think there's one on Grand Central. I pass it delivering
Then there's
often.
Yeah, Elmira Heights.
Ryder budget truck right around the corner at Nagley Moving. They've got a budget or whatever. And then you got Enterprise too that does the box
Enterprise,
truck
yeah.
thing. We see all the Amazon guys running around delivering them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what Ryder is, but Enterprise is ridiculously expensive too.
Sounds like they all are, except for U-Haul.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of seems like one of those.
You can rent a U-Haul truck and go get an LS swap and swap it into one of your vehicles.
Absolutely.
That would be a pretty interesting swap to have.
I feel like
The
someone
LS
has
is the
done that
Corvette.
before, but they
The
got
LS is the Corvette
Yep,
engine,
yep,
right? It's
GM,
also,
Corvette,
yeah.
bulletproof. People use it, common swap
It definitely seems like if
for $20.
it would be so much cheaper for you to rent a U-Haul than a regular sedan. Like, oh man, my car broke down. I gotta go get a rent a car. It's gonna be $345 for 3 days.
If you're not going to be driving
I'll
a
be
lot
back.
of miles, yeah, the U-Haul might be the
Yeah.
better option because they have the regular just truck that you can Chevy truck that you can
That's like
rent too.
$15.
Yeah, it's
12
I think it's
bucks.
$19.95 plus however
Yeah.
many cents per
Man, I
mile.
would rent that thing for delivery driving. You kidding me?
Yeah, the truck
I'd be
is-
like,
I don't know,
I'm gonna
driving
need to
on
rent
gas,
this
though.
for 4 months.
Yeah, the gas and 100 miles plus a night sometimes. Like on Friday and
So lucky
Saturdays,
to break even.
if I close, sometimes I've driven 120 miles in the closing shift. So
Really?
yeah, there's so it was about a year ago I got my inspection done and I got to get another one done. And since then, because they write the mileage on the sticker,
Inspection stickers, yeah.
yeah. So I've driven about since I got my last inspection done about 25,000 miles in 1 year.
That's 10,000 miles above the national
Yeah,
average.
I'm doing about I think it's close to 5,000 or no. I think it's 500 a week, I think is what I'm doing.
If you have 500 a week times 52 would be 25 and change for the
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
So that's on average between personal driving and then between Domino's. Usually at Domino's, I'm anywhere between 60 and 120 miles a shift, depending if I'm short shifting or
That's some
closing.
driving.
Yeah, they stay busy. I'm shocked how busy they are. You'd think with the price of everything being much higher that people would eat out less, but they're eating out way more than they were
Well,
a decade
sometimes
ago.
it's kind of more cost efficient to eat out as opposed to buying it, preparing it, cooking it.
Especially if you have a large family or if you're a single
Or
parent,
single, yeah.
especially a
It
single
depends
parent.
on where you go. If you go to Tops, Wegmans, it's unreal. Something will be $5 at Wegmans. You go to Aldi's, $1.79.
Yeah.
I love all
Mhm.
these. And the quality of some of their items is just, I think, far superior. Even
Just
to
don't,
some
just don't
Wegmans
buy their
stuff.
produce.
Yeah.
Some
Why do you say that?
Weiss is
It's all
another.
moldy.
Oh,
yeah, Weiss is another place you got to watch out
We
with the
went there
produce.
yesterday, and my buddy was about to get strawberries. I'm like,
Probably.
looked at them. They look good
Yeah,
from
you
the
better-
top.
you better
Turn it
check
over.
those.
There's just white on the bottom,
Mm.
and
Figure it's like, where were they grown, picked,
How long
logistically
were they
shipped,
in
how
there,
long, how long's it been sitting on the shelf
Duh.
for?
Well, what would you say you typically? It's roughly about $25 an hour,
For what, me? What I make?
Yeah.
Oh no.
30ish.
I'm anywhere between 30 and 35 an hour. That's why I haven't
It
left.
should be. You figure in cost of
Yeah.
fuel, wear and tear at 25,000 miles a year, brake, tires, oil
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, a lot of
But
drivers.
it definitely equals
Yeah.
out.
broke
but
it down to about 32.
It is very
On
interesting.
average,
money.
I'd say
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. But a lot of delivery drivers will say, "Oh, it's not so good. I barely make it." And it's like,
You got to get the
all
closing.
right, then come on inside. And
You
you
gotta
got
get the-
never. Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
come inside. It's
yeah,
no,
they'll
no.
never wanna
I like
switch.
being out on the road. Yeah, of
You
course
gotta get
do,
the
because
closing
it's a lot of
shifts.
untaxed money.
You got to get the
Okay.
closing shifts to make the good,
And
real
it's
good
one
money.
third the work.
Like on Saturday
Yes,
nights,
that is the
Saturday
biggest
nights, I'm
thing.
usually bringing home anywhere from like $180 to $220 each Saturday.
Yeah,
Just in
So
tips?
just in tips and gas mileage.
it is good money.
Yeah.
It is. It's definitely one of the.
That's why it blows
better,
my
less
mind, like-
stressful
Oh,
ones.
admitting that they're gonna get you now.
Who?
Hopefully this episode don't blow up.
Or
Yeah,
there's
you're
going
gonna
to
have
be
to-
No, I
a huge
claim-
influx of people that want
No,
those
no.
jobs.
I claim my taxes. Yep.
You claim your taxes?
Yeah. They
We all
they
claim our
tax
taxes.
I claim my tips. They take the money out of my paycheck every week for my tips. Yep.
Oh yeah, they do
Yep.
automatically.
Yep. Yeah, no one tips in cash anymore, so I don't get cash tips. It's all on credit card.
Yeah, you haven't gotten cash tip in the last
Yeah,
3
no,
years.
nobody
That's
gives me
right,
cash
that's
tips
right,
anymore.
yeah.
It's all credit card.
Yep.
Yep. So another good question I had on here for you.
There's more?
There's a
just
couple
kidding.
more. I mean, if you got to go, we could
No,
always
no,
drag
no,
it up,
I'm good.
but-
I'm
We
just.
are pushing
uh,
the third hour.
So, how do you engage with and gather input from the community to make informed
Started at
decisions
about
as a city
5:30,
councilman?
5:35.
Yeah,
we started a bit later.
so social media, Facebook page, I try to accountability, transparency on there, tell people when meetings are, hey, this hot button issue. But the algorithms are weird, man. Yeah, I can say, hey, they're going to raise your taxes and we're getting raises, gets like 50 engagements, but I post a picture of the clock tower all draped over and it gets like 8,000 engagements, you know? So things that really matter, I think Facebook
Because
posts
it
them
matters.
down, but the things that incite emotion and get people riled up,
Yeah.
they push that. So that's just one way. That's a tool, but the town hall meetings I think is probably the best way. And ultimately, I'm not a politician. I'm a regular old Elmira boy who just wants to make things better. I see people at the ball fields, you know, football, baseball. I coach basketball. I go to Weiss. I go to Aldi's. I go to Wegmans. I go to the I used to go to local watering holes, but just living life and being a genuine, normal local guy, it just fosters an environment where you can have conversations about what the heck's going on.
Okay. Yeah, the only reason I got so many questions is because I'm actually pretty ignorant to how the inner workings of like local
Hey man,
government
ask away.
works. So,
I mean,
yeah.
if the only thing I can accomplish is to, and I don't know all this because I'm like a political science major. I graduated from Corning Community College with an associate's degree in business administration. But again, I'm not like an attorney. I don't know this. I'm not an expert. I've learned a lot of this just because
You're exposed to it.
earned a seat at the table and I care. I'm passionate about it. Just like, I mean, I washed dishes and bussed tables and swept and mopped floors. And I was always just passionate about whatever I did. And this is something that I think demands a passionate person or should at least, you know what I mean? So yeah, no, I'm all good with Ask Away, man. I love sharing information and how I learned what I know.
I feel like I can see your passion in it too because you said multiple times on the podcast tonight how like you're not in it for the money and to line your own pockets, and I feel like that's a rare thing. Like it seems like people want to do that a lot, and it looks like you're actually genuinely happy to try to help the city of Elmira and do what you can to better it, especially, you know, living here your whole life. So
Yeah, absolutely. Even if I wanted to be the other side of it, right? I haven't created an environment through my business and through community relationships and, you know, being a coach in youth sports. Like if I wanted to be a scumbag like the status quo rest of them, you know what I mean? I haven't really created an environment that would allow me to do that. Not that I would want to do that, but I just, you know.
Takes time to line those pockets, so.
Yeah, but again, that's not my MO, you know what I mean?
But for them, you know, it's one of those things. If you wanted to be that way, you'd have
Oh
to
yeah,
start
very
greasing
calculated.
and-
And playing the game, and this isn't a game to me. This is real life, and these decisions affect people that I know and I love and I care about.
So the last question I have written down is, in what ways can residents and businesses in our city actively participate in local government and support the city's growth and well-being?
If you haven't already, familiarize yourself with your council representative, what district you're in, who represents that district. Go to a council meeting.
No, yours stopped recording.
go to a council meeting, get their email, get their phone call, let them know, hey, I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm paying attention to how you vote. And that's probably the first and the most important step.
All right, I got my eye on you then, because I'm in the 1st District.
Are you?
Yeah.
How come I'm just finding that out tonight?
I'm over on 5th Street.
Okay. 5th, 5th, let me think about this. I'm crossing the lines.
Grove Park is here. You cross Walnut,
Yep.
and I'm just a couple houses in on 5th Street.
Okay, yep, that is part of the 5th.
Yep.
Are you on the, it's got to be the southeast portion of the street there? I guess it's more south.
It's definitely more east. It's like if you're on Davis Street looking at Elmira College, it's behind you.
Okay.
So it's
So
close.
westerly up 5th then.
Oh, yeah, west,
Yeah,
not
it's the
east.
first
My bad.
district.
My
Yeah,
bad.
I know what you're talking about. I am your council representative.
Yep.
And you know how to get a hold of me.
Yep. I've been there for 6 or 7 years now, coming up on 7, I think.
Oh, okay.
So, got my eye on
I don't
you.
know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that I haven't heard from you, but honestly, the 1st District is probably one of the better, if not the best district in the city as far as neighborhoods, parks, neighborhood demographics. And again, we've got a big sprawl of all of that. But the 4th District, the most easterly, parts of the 2 south side districts, 6th and the 5th, they struggle because...
Which section is the 4th? Is that like east side?
East side, yep.
Okay.
To the river, downtown district's the 2nd. And
I think I know what 5th was, because that's what David was running for. It was 5th, right?
5th, yep. That's like Grand Park area.
Down towards the south side Domino's.
Yep. So
okay.
that line is pretty much Pennsylvania Ave.
And I know my mom-
respectfully north and south.
And I know the
6th and
6th because my mom is in the 6th, and that's where I used to vote for, was the 6th when I was
Okay.
down there. So
Yep. There's a map on the city website with all the districts. It just got updated recently. So when
Okay.
you zoomed in, the street names don't disappear and it becomes all pixelated. It's really a good map with good
Okay.
lines on it now. We didn't have that before.
And what was that website?
Cityofelmira.net.
Cityofelmira.net.
Yep. And I don't always doom and gloom, but one positive thing the publicity liaison has done has improved the user end of interacting with the city website. And she is the one
That's
who put up
always
a good
nice.
district map on there finally. So I like to give credit where it's due,
So this one I didn't have written down, but it has popped in my head, and I don't know how you'd feel answering it.
No,
But
just go ahead. You
is-
guys ask me anything you want me to avoid
Is
before?
there-
Absolutely not.
is there any corruption that you know of in the city of Elmira?
I would like to think not and hope not,
Okay.
but there have been like red flags per se, right? We have auditors come financially that ask us elected officials certain questions. And I don't want to divert away from that because I think that there may be some potential for it. Even leaving a vehicle running when you shouldn't. And I'm not talking about first responders, police, fire. They need to leave those vehicles running for communication issues, stuff like that. But yeah, something as little as that. I think anytime humans are involved and without careful oversight, there is waste. There is the mentality of what's the saying? A dollar for him, a dime for me. That's why I shit on company time. So if there's any, culture or mentality of that in any environment, yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that like to claim, there's a lot of corruption in the city of Elmira, which is why I wanted to ask that. And, sometimes, because obviously, like some of the big grants, like you were saying, we got $28 million for COVID relief from the ARP fund.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously people that think some of the people in our local government, took some of that money and just put it in their own pocket.
Yeah,
like,
so it doesn't work that easily. Just like we learned in the village of Addison, creative accounting, people who, know the systems, the inner workings of it. I'm not going to say that potential doesn't exist. I also don't want to come out and say, yes, there is corruption, because ultimately you got to prove it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, I have plausible deniability. I guess, again, anytime the human element is involved, I guess the possibility for that may exist.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question because I know what happens in the, when you go up the political ladder. Are there backroom deals that are made that you know of? Because I know it happens all the time.
I
with
don't get a
legislation
seat at the
getting
table in the backroom deals, and they wouldn't want me there because I'd blow the hatch on the thing. So, but backroom conversations, backdoor deals per se, conversations, they happen.
Is there ever any
even
lobbyists?
at the
Especially
local
now,
level.
it's easier than ever. You just send an email, and then you put it on a public server, and then you just hit them with hammers, and then you're completely
Is
so
there-
I'm not a big emailer. Everybody's a big emailer, but it's because there's a paper trail of it. I'm more of pick up the phone and call me.
Yeah, I hate
and
email.
with constituent services, at least, pick up the phone and call me. I don't need an email for accountability. Like, I'm out here doing my job.
Is there any lobbyists that come to the local level, or is that just kind of higher up,
None
more
that have
national
ever
and
approached
state?
me.
Okay.
And when you say lobbyists, political organization or PAC that might have an agenda or something they want done as far as local legislation, and then obviously campaign contributions, right? So there's this really nice thing, New York State Board of Elections, campaign finance. I normally run a city council race. I did run for county legislator last year. I lost. But $3,000-ish is normally what I run a campaign with. The mayor has told me since he got elected 8 years ago, now he's going into a third term, 12 years, the city had a Democratic mayor who spent the city into like a $3.5 million deficit. But he and the Chemung County GOP spent, I believe, $25,000 to oust the Democrat. So comparably, council race $3,000 as opposed to the mayoral race $25,000, almost 10 times that amount.
Yeah, that's not even that bad though.
Yeah. So I'm not aware of any of that, or maybe I'm just not the guy to approach because they know I don't play the game and I don't advocate for
Incorruptible.
lobbyists. I advocate for regular old Elmirans like us.
Is Rodney on city council, or is
He's
he
Chemung
county?
County Legislature,
Okay, he's
15th
county.
district, which
I was just
is
wondering.
this legislative
Yeah,
district.
I used to work with him at the Elbow Room. I always liked working with Rodney.
I like Rodney.
He's a good dude. Just
He's
As
one
long
of
as
those
you
people
came-
who've been on the
as long as you came to
legislature,
work and
though.
did your work, he's a good dude.
Yeah, that's reasonable in any aspect, right?
Yep.
But he's one. I mean, we just saw on the back of the ballot this year, term limits for county executive and county legislature. I mean, Rodney's been on the legislature for, I think, beyond what the term limits that just passed were. And I don't mean to pick fun at him, but there's a lot of them that obviously that's what people wanted.
What was the term limit for legislator?
So here's one thing I didn't. It's a step in the right direction with the term limit, but the way that it's written and the way it passes, 3 consecutive terms for 12 years.
Okay.
So career politicians, here's the thing. They figured out how to work the game, play the game, work the system. So I suppose how it's currently written now, starting January 1st, is you could do 2 consecutive terms, 8 years, and then you could go to like city council or the town board in Southport or the town of Elmira. And then guess what? You can go back to the county legislature and do another 4, 8, 12 years, as long as you don't do 3 consecutive terms.
Because there's probably
That would disqualify
a
you.
comma in a weird space or something like that where the legal loophole was found. And
I saw it for what it is. Again, it's a step in the right direction. And I think really the big push locally is like, hey, if all the local, government organizations do this, then hey, we're sending a message up the ladder to Big Brother. It's like, because we really need term limits on the national, federal level, Congress and the
absolutely.
Senate.
yeah, we have the oldest people I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
life.
I think every office
And they go into it,
some
like
kind of limit.
as average people, and now you look at their net worths and they're multimillionaires. It's like, you can't tell me you didn't get some back.
You just look at old footage of like just even Joe
Nancy
Biden
Pelosi,
of
yeah,
when
all
he
of
was in the
them.
I was just
30s.
gonna
He
say
had
Pelosi.
He had a mullet and things like that, and he was like, "Huh, "You shouldn't take a well. Don't say that I'm not corrupt. You don't know the people in here for so long they become corrupt. Yeah, bud, you've
Yeah.
been in there for
He
50
basically-
years.
In that interview there, he had basically just admitted, like, yeah, I'm corrupt,
Or
without saying,
he's
yeah, I'm corrupt.
susceptible to it. But I mean, all people are, right?
Yeah, what is
I
Pelosi worth
suppose.
now? Like $40 million, $50 million?
yeah. And
Something ridiculous.
I love
Just happens
that,
to buy the right stock at the right
And,
time.
and her husband too
Yeah.
made some key stock deals. It's
Well,
like you
that's
didn't
why
do
they
insider
launched
trading.
the stock trader, where they would watch her stocks and
Yep.
whatever she would trade, people would follow.
Yeah, you can
and
watch it on Reddit or whatever.
She
and
has like
whatever.
a 87%
It's not a bad
track
strategy.
record. Like she's the best stock
I don't
trader
do any
in
of that,
history.
but maybe I should. Start watching what Nancy Pelosi
Yeah.
does.
Make a little
She knows
money.
what's going on. Well, it'll probably start dipping off because now she's out. But
yeah.
Yeah, was she 91 years old?
but I got a big
Something
question.
crazy.
2024, Trump or
Yeah.
Biden?
Neither.
Hoping for somebody.
Do you enjoy shit sandwiches? Because that's like the national political scheme of where we're at in America. Do you want shit sandwich A or shit sandwich B? It's like, I don't enjoy shit sandwiches. I will say, as a business owner, as a family man, things were economically better. At least they felt like it. Yeah. My paycheck, my bank account better under Trump. So we're always tasked with like the lesser of two evils, and that's like a bad choice. We're still picking evil.
We do have a very good third choice right now.
The Kennedy, Robert Kennedy,
Vivek.
independent.
We have Vivek.
Yeah, Kennedy's a little.
I still question Vivek, but
yeah.
I still question
if
Vivek.
any Democrat were to get in, I would want.
I like both of those guys.
I
too.
do like Kennedy. He's all right, but I'm kind of against him when it comes to his gun control policies.
Yep, I agree.
It is hard to listen to him. I believe he can be charismatic, but
he wasn't bad. 20 years
something
ago?
happened to him that
he had a vocal damage or something.
I think the thing I like most about Vivek during the GOP debate was like he wasn't up there just trying to.
He's the Indian American guy.
Yeah,
right?
he wasn't just
like
trying to talk
too.
shit at his opponents and slander them like all the other people.
But he did
do.
attack them. And he did it smart.
He attacks them with facts.
Yes.
Rather than name calling. I don't like the ad hominems. Right. I'm not a big fan of the ad hominems.
So I'm kind of with you on Trump, but I am a fan of Trump. Like, things were just better with him, I believe. And his promise of, I just believe he's going to be a bull in a china shop, which, of course, everybody is saying.
That's what I'm hoping.
Economically, he did great by us. He didn't get us in wars, which was fantastic. He did bomb some kids, which is awful, but he was straightforward about it.
What president doesn't?
Yeah, at this point, what president doesn't?
I mean, for the reasons you mentioned and a couple other reasons, like if it came down to Trump and Biden again, I'm most likely going to vote for the shit sandwich with a little bit of Cheeto dust on it.
Yeah.
So
at least it tastes a little better.
Who would your ideal candidate be? Out of everybody running, who would you want to see in office?
I don't know.
It's difficult.
Last election, I could give you an honest answer, but we're so far away from it too. A
lot can happen.
I mean, I really hope it doesn't come down to Trump and Biden, but I think we could all probably speculate with some reason that it probably will.
It's probably going to be Gavin Newsom and Trump.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Man, that's scary. California.
And if...
I mean, if anybody just pays attention to what's been happening in California, it's very obvious that's not an option. It's really not. Just California is awful.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Ron DeSantis was going to be pretty good in the beginning, but something happened.
He seems to have lost a lot of steam.
Still pretty good, but his campaign has been so weird,
and he's
been responding very, very poorly.
He's a little bit more hawkish than I thought he was going to be,
and he wears high heels.
I don't care about the high heels.
No,
man,
yeah, neither do I. It's
if you're a grown ass man, you want to walk around with high heels.
If I can wear some high heels that look like cowboy boots, so I can sneak in a couple inches and maybe look 5'8", 5'9", I might do it.
If you don't hit that 6 foot mark,
it's tough.
Automatically not attractive.
I kind of just want Trump win low to stick it in people's face.
Some of my biggest the divisiveness that came with Trump. You know what I mean?
So the question I've always had, and a statement I've kind of made to people: was it Trump that was divisive, or was it the media that was?
He did have a little bit of a potty mouth.
Could have been the media.
Everybody loved him in the '90s. Oprah Winfrey absolutely loved the man.
I mean, don't get me wrong; he did say some things that gave the news plenty of fuel to throw on the fire of the divisiveness.
They painted him in a way.
They all do it though. They all do it. Biden said some crazy off-the-wall stuff early on, some bigotry, everything. Everyone
and
just
in the
forgets
90s,
about.
He would say some racist stuff.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, like he didn't want his kids growing in a racial going to school in a racial
jungle. Or like last election, if you didn't vote for Biden, then you ain't black.
Then he has the audacity to say something, you're not really black unless you vote for
him.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black.
Yep.
I'm surprised Charlemagne the God didn't call him out on that.
Poor kids are just as smart as white kids.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That
was my favorite one.
That was a big blunder.
It obviously can't be him. Like, it can't. He's grandpa. He's grandpa who shit his pants and is sitting on the porch. Get him out.
Okay, most of my Democratic friends think he's doing a bad job. So
Yeah, he has
We
That's
always
awful.
talk about like the labor force and age being an issue, right? We don't hire old people, right? That's like an accepted standard down here for all of us minions.
Let 'em
but
run
we
the
let them
country, though.
run the
But
run
that's
the country.
like the
It's like
average
double
in
standard.
Congress.
What is
and
the
everything.
average age? 68 or 69
Yeah, it's
or
like
something like that
68.
in
up
that
there.
old
It's
government.
like, bro, you should all be retired, but we understand why you're not. We get it because
Those
you've got a
backdoor
lot
deals,
of donor
lobbyists,
pockets. And,
yeah, campaign contributions.
Are you
are
guys
just too
excited though for
gravy.
like when Gen Z starts running for politics? Like they're gonna be making TikTok videos to campaign and shit and
I
doing
don't know.
TikTok dances.
Are these the ones that like still live at home in mom's basement and entitled to everything? Because I don't think they should be running the show.
yeah, X is
Not
barely
that
getting
anything's
into
wrong
it,
living
but
in your parents' basement when you need to, but
I just can't wait to see
I mean, if you
presidents
live there
campaigning
your
on
entire
TikTok
life-
with
I don't know,
TikTok dances.
generational
I'm
life
pumped
seems
for it.
alright.
well, so like in American culture, you say we're expected 18, you're out, right? Where in European and Asian culture, you can live there until you can be able to be on your feet into your 30s, and it's socially acceptable. Here, you're unsuccessful if you're not out by 18
I think,
or whatever,
I
off to
definitely-
college or.
I know some cultures too. It's like not until you actually get married, then you move out and you
Yeah.
move in with your wife.
Yeah.
I definitely believe Western culture failed on that front because a strong family is what like creates everything. But when you move out and you start a new family, it's very difficult to find time. But we had that.
Who cares for the elders? I mean,
Yeah, but we had the fairy tale through the 80s and 90s where, we're going to go to grandma's and Christmas and have this wonderful snow in the background with the tree lit up. And it's like, that's not what it's really like. But if you had a generational home, which we see them right here on the south side, there's these huge generational homes.
Well,
You could
Victorian
fit
homes,
3
yeah.
families.
Mhm.
I mean,
a
yeah,
lot
it's
of
going to
them
be a
have
hectic
turned into
house.
multi-units now because
Yeah.
who can afford to maintain and heat and cool them?
But if
If
you
you
had
had
3 families worth of
With
people
income,
living
yeah,
in
you
one
could do
house,
that.
All working jobs, it'd make it much cheaper.
it's like
I
a
mean,
small
we'll,
commune.
Well, look
in
at our
one building.
generation now. You got people in the millennial generation that are buying houses with their friends because it's cheaper for 2 different couples to buy a house and live together and just kind of stay on separate sides of the house than it is to buy your own house.
So back to the Indian American things again, not Native Americans, but Indian Americans. They own Dunkin' Donuts in the corner stores, right? We're all familiar with them. What they do is they will come buy a 4,000 square foot house in Biltmore Drive, whatever, and they will all live there because they have 8 different incomes coming in, and they all contribute to the house, and they all have their space, right?
And they have a strong family structure. They
Yeah,
know what's up.
yes, yep.
They share like 2 vehicles between 8 people.
And they're
but
sweet
they
vehicles, Porsches,
understand-
Mercedes, BMWs.
Yeah,
I'm a car
but
guy,
they
so.
understand like this is what life is. We
Right.
want everybody's life to be easier in the long run, so you have to deal with small inconveniences. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to go back to live with my parents with 2 generations worth of people to where we all get to have a fantastic life. Sure, I got to deal with your bullshit every once in a while, but we all get to live pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
Speaking of cars, what is the nicest one that you ever got to clean?
Ooh.
I've seen some nice cars at this place driving by before.
Yeah. So, like, MTV cribs and everything we see, professional athletes and, rich people and stuff.
McLarens,
We don't really
Bugattis.
have quite that here. So, like, we don't have Lamborghinis and Ferraris running around.
not very much.
If we do, they're, older, but, still nonetheless, sweet car. I very recently just did a brand new 24 BMW M4 competition. About $90,000, $100,000 depending on how it's equipped. But I've also gotten to do like a late 70s Austin Healey MK3 3000. That's like $150,000 classic. Got a client with an Audi R8. So like the nice cars around here are
The
like
R8s
the
might
super
be-
hyper cars we see in New York City and Miami and Los Angeles.
It's not like a Bugatti or an
yeah,
Aston
right.
Martin.
I mean,
Adam
when you-
Weitzman out in Binghamton
Rolls-Royce.
has a Bugatti, but unfortunately, I don't get to clean his cars. Yeah.
When you see an
If you're
Audi,
listening, Adam, I want to earn your business.
when you see an Audi R8 driving down the street in Elmira, though, it's like seeing a Bugatti. It's like,
is.
oh damn, who's got that in this city?
Yeah.
I love the R8s. Have you
There's
cleaned
3 of
any?
them around here: a black,
you-
a white, and a blue one.
Have you cleaned any of the new mid-engine Corvettes? You said you're a car
a
guy.
new
What's
C8? I haven't.
your opinion on the new mid-engine Corvettes?
I love them.
I love them
and they
too.
have a hybrid power plant that's supposed to be
Really?
like out of this world acceleration wise. I think that's really cool, especially given the whole EV movement and all that stuff. But
I know if I'm still working at Domino's when I go to get a new car after this one's paid off, I'm really looking at a hybrid because that'll help me even more on gas mileage. So
they came out with the new the Corvette was always like the working man's, blue collar,
That's always been
enter
my
into
favorite
a not
strong
supercar,
muscle,
but an American muscle car, and not like raw Mustang or Challenger, but a little bit of refined like the Ferraris and Lamborghini and the Europeans. So the new C8s base entry level, them original MSRP on them was like 55, 56 grand, which in the grand scheme of things, that is achievable in our lifetime, right? But now with inflation and logistics and cost of money, I mean, dealer markup, greed, I guess, essentially, it almost puts them into that six-figure mark that it's like, okay, for 6 figures, I don't want a Corvette, I want something else someday.
I'd rather go get a Audi R8 if I'm going to pay 6 figures.
Yeah, right, me too, agreed. Get a V10 as opposed to an 8-cylinder, but I'm not at that point yet.
Drive around like Iron
someday.
Man.
I think you can probably still find one of the smaller, older model like Lamborghini Diablos or something like that for like 6 figure. Probably,
yeah,
right?
well, they're starting to appreciate, especially as we keep going down this EV road.
Yeah.
Old eclectic, the gasoline cars, even something that wouldn't be considered collectible just because it's gas and technology's changing, they're going to be more collectible now.
Yeah, I think we're gonna destroy so much going to EV. Like
it's already starting to undo itself. They can't sell them. The market's not there for it. Manufacturers are starting to realize it.
And more
Lines-
information is coming out about
lines
what
of-
it takes to create the electricity.
Lines
Yeah,
of
if
people
everyone
at the
had one, we
charging
wouldn't be
stations
able
trying to
to-
get into charge.
It's
I s-
unsustainable.
I saw a video from spring break in Florida. I think it was in 2021 or
I
2022.
just saw the same video, I think.
And there was a line zigzagging all the way out the parking lot into the road for people to charge their Teslas.
takes
And
too
it's
long.
like, yeah. I mean, even the Teslas can charge a little quicker when I think it's like 4 hours max if it's like fully dead. But they even got the quick charge where you can get to like half a charge
Supercharger,
in like 20, 30 minutes. But even
Musk
even then,
just
when you got a
talked about
line
that
of
on
people
Joe Rogan
waiting
podcast.
20, 30 minutes,
can't
each
you only
car is
go
going to take a
like
while.
200 miles on
I think the
full charge?
Teslas are 400 something.
400.
Yeah.
The ranges vary, and it can be inconsistent. Temperature, road conditions.
How old your
Are you
battery
hauling
is.
some? Yeah, I mean, so many. You might have a vehicle that has a 300-mile range, but if it's really cold out, you might be lucky to get 90 miles. We see. I mean, are you using the climate control, the audio system?
Well, I just saw a video of a Tesla too, because the door handles, like you touch them and then they pop out. This guy's car was frozen from the night before, where it like started raining and then turned into snow, and he couldn't get his door handle to pop out because it was frozen. Finally, he got it, but
They make anti-freeze spray for that now, so you can quickly spray it on thaw. It's got to be like alcohol based or something.
something else
I
they
was
can
gonna say, isn't that just
something
hot
else they can
water?
sell you.
Like,
Well, don't use it on glass. People
Yeah.
do that to defrost their windshields, and
I'll tell you what though, I wouldn't mind like
That is
just
fun to watch.
riding in a Tesla someday where someone does the launch where it goes like 0 to 60 in like 2.7 or something
So,
like that.
I've gotten
They're
to
kinda
detail a few amount of the Teslas around here, and anytime a cool car comes through, it's like, I don't want a tip. Can we go for a ride? And Tesla owners are always like the first one. You can drive it too, and that acceleration.
just don't use the autopilot. Don't use the autopilot.
That's like a $12,000 option. Most of them don't have that, but just in
okay.
software. All the hardware, there's again the
they
LiDAR,
all-
the radar cameras.
Do they all have that launch option or just certain models?
So not all of them do. What's that called? Like lucid mode or something, or the launch mode that
I feel like they'd probably call it sport mode or something like
Yeah,
that.
but they've got it special. It is a sport mode
Okay.
essentially, but they call it ludicrous mode or something.
Of course you would. Musk is a goofy guy.
They're pretty amazing. It's just it puts you back, unlike any gasoline combustible engine that I've ever experienced. Because with electricity, it's just instantaneous. All the torque, all the power's there, immediately available. There's no turbo lag. There's no RPM power building. It's
So I
just,
feel like the only thing I could actually relate to that, I don't know if you've ever been to Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio.
I haven't.
They've
no.
got a roller coaster there called the Top Thrill Dragster, and it shoots you from like 0 to 120 miles an hour in like under 3 seconds or like 3 or 4 seconds. So I'm guessing that's probably the closest I've ever been to being in a Tesla, which I think that might be a little faster than a Tesla.
Probably
but
it is. Yeah, I think
yeah, that ride they tell you to put your head back before it launches because it can give you
You'll
like
give yourself
whiplash,
a
shooting,
whiplash and
shooting so
whiplash.
fast.
So King Dakar at Six Flags down in New Jersey, they have one. It's an LS motor, a Corvette motor that actually powers this band. And I don't know the exact specs of 100 or 0 to something really quick, but put your head back, same thing, and just the pure acceleration, you can't scream, you can't say, holy shit.
That's how it was with this, too.
And then as you start going up this straight peak, you're finally like, I can breathe and say something, and then you come straight down, and then you just ride it out.
Halfway up on the Top Thrill dragster when I was finally able to, like, catch my breath. I was like, holy shit, man.
It's exhilarating.
It was exhilarating, for sure.
Sounds like this is how you get to space camp.
It makes me wonder what it would be like flying in a fighter jet when you're pulling G's and taking off real fast. That would be something I'd love to do someday.
I don't think the average human body can sustain that. That's why they go through so much training, because it'll literally make you pass out, right? Or
I've seen some
from the
training.
G-strain and everything like that. You can pass out from the differential and the air pressure and everything like that. It's kind of crazy.
So that's something
fighter
that
jet flyers go through extensive training to be able to endure that.
So that's something that pops up in my algorithm often, where I get the training videos of fighter pilots, and there's been quite a few of them where like they pass out from pulling the G's, and then they wake up and they're like, oh, did I pass out? Like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. It's funny watching some of their faces. Sometimes it looks like their faces are about to melt off too from pulling the G's. I'm like, holy shit, that looks intense. Trying to breathe, they're like
organs on the inside.
Tossing them around a little bit. Humans are pretty resilient, though, for the most part.
Can be.
Yeah, look at that lady that fell 14,000 feet out of an airplane into the Swiss Alps. With a person on her back.
On the perfect slope that absorbed it, and she
her instructor was, went belly first, and her instructor was on top of her, and they hit the ground. Somehow, it was unreal.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, I watched that yesterday. It was a YouTube short.
Oh,
she was on a podcast, and
that's pretty dope.
And she had, I think they were a mile and a half away from their landing zone.
Whatever you want to credit it to.
She had to crawl like a mile to their landing zone so people could find her.
Wow.
Jesus. You ever happen to see the video? I don't know why this just popped in my head. The video of, I think it was somewhere down in Mexico. It was some Spanish army or somewhere down below the south of the border. They were doing parachute jumps for training, and one of the guys, his regular chute got tangled up in something on the plane, and now the plane's just dragging him through the air. Like, he's stuck, and it's just like flying through the air, and they're trying to figure out a way to get him back in, because it'd be dangerous for him to try to pull the reserve chute right there, because that's just going to get tangled too. So it's like they either got to try to cut that line and get him free or pull him back inside. And you just see him doing this, just swinging behind the plane. I was watching it, laughing my ass off, and I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't be laughing at that.
One of the back wings?
Something on the back of the plane, his chute got caught on.
All right, well, we're going to tilt a little bit and let him slide off.
I'm not sure what it was, because I know when the military jumps out of the plane, you're on like this, it's like a line inside the plane, and as soon as you jump like out of the plane, that line that you're on pulls something that pulls your chute out. So like as soon as you jump, your chute starts to pop out, and now you're floating down during the training. But yeah, that must have been the ride of a lifetime right there.
I would have passed out out of pure fear.
It probably. And
or just the sensation of just spinning around like that.
And there's another one too, a kid in the army. It was his last jump. I don't know if you ever saw this one where he's in the tree and he takes a video of himself. He's like, oh, I'm stuck in a tree. Call me the tree meister. His last ever jump for training, and he gets tangled up in this tree way up high. That's got to suck, just dangling there waiting for somebody to come pick you up and save you.
It wasn't his last jump ever, literally.
Yeah, that would have been bad. We had a friend that went out to Ohio to go skydiving to get her license to jump alone, and that's where my wife and I went skydiving for the first time. And it was like her 20th jump. She had to do a cutaway. Her chute got tangled, and that's what she said. She's like, yeah, it's pretty scary. It's intense.
This was part of the certification order to jump alone. You had to do that?
No.
This was a freak accident that happened.
Her chute just happened to get tangled.
Oh.
And she had to do a cutaway and pull the reserve chute. It's like, man, that's got to be scary.
Yeah.
I'd love to get my license to jump alone someday. I've gone skydiving twice, and it's so exhilarating. Such a thrill.
Yeah, because it's got to be in the back of your mind that if one chute failed, what if my second chute doesn't deploy right?
Yeah, and well, you got to cut that chute away. You got to.
Yeah, so it does. Yeah,
I think there's a thing you can pull on the harness that you have on that'll release the first chute, and if you can't get that released or something or get tangled up too
you
much,
just cut it off with a knife.
And if you can't do that and get your second one deployed, or say that gets tangled in the regular chute,
Probably
you're
hit the
screwed.
ground by that point.
Well,
trying-
no, because
if you're
I'm trying to
struggling
remember-
and then you can't pull the other one, and then you're
3-4
trying
minutes
to cut, and
it
then
takes from that height.
It depends what height you're jumping from. The first time I went skydiving, we jumped from 13,500 feet. The second time was only from 10,000 feet.
How long did it take?
We got from like 10,000 feet to 5,000 feet in like a minute the second time I went. The plane ride the second time I went was a little sketchier than the jump. The jump was cool because the dude did a double front flip out of the plane, and then he let me control the chute. This was right up here in Ovid, New York,
Oh, okay.
between the two lakes.
Finger Lake skydiving?
Yeah, that's the one. That was really, really cool because you can see both, I think it was Cayuga and Seneca right
That makes
there.
sense,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, they were talking about there was something wrong with the plane, and what they did to it was like a temporary fix, and they're going to need to do more to it.
Good thing we got parachutes.
Yeah, as me and Amjad are like climbing up to, get higher in the sky to go skydiving. Luckily, I don't think Amjad could hear him because this was his first time skydiving.
Jeez.
And he thought he was afraid of heights, but he was just afraid of falling and dying. We found that out. Well, we found that out because the guy that Amjad went skydiving with asked him prior. He's like, "So you're afraid of heights?" And Amjad was like, "Yeah." And the guy goes, "Well, have you ever been on an airplane?" And Amjad was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You ever look out the window while you're on the airplane?" And he said, Yeah, I did. He's like, "You ever like look off the side of a mountain when you're up there or on a hill?" And I'm just like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, you're not afraid of heights. You're afraid of falling and dying." So yeah, that definitely made sense. I feel like that was an interesting perspective.
yeah, makes
Rationalizing the fear.
Yep.
sense. Same thing with climbing a ladder. You're not afraid that you're up high. It's that, oh my God, what happens if
I
I
fall,
tip
it goes
this
out,
and then I
yeah.
go down and then I snap both my legs when I hit the ground. And,
Or hit my head or my
Yeah.
neck.
Yep. I've been on a ladder up high where it started shaking, and I'll tell you what, that'll make your butthole pucker real quick.
yeah,
That ladder starts shaking, you're just like, oh shit, whole body tenses up.
They say sometimes that's actually worse because when you tense up, you're actually shifting your weight more instead of just like letting it flow and roll.
So in car accidents, natural response is to tense up, and that's
you're
what
not-
breaks bones.
Yep.
And drunk people in car accidents apparently are really relaxed
Pretty
and they don't break
resilient,
bones.
yep. Same thing with people that are like sleeping during a car accident are actually more likely to survive than anybody else because they have no idea what just happened or what is happening, and they're just a limp body.
Kind of like the
going with
movie
flow.
Due Date.
So, yeah.
When Zach Galifianakis passed out driving and they ended up flipping off the
Oh
overpass.
yeah, that was in the movie, huh?
Yeah,
With Robert
with-
Downey Jr.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yep.
That movie was pretty funny.
Never heard of it.
I've heard of Due
pretty
Date. I'm
good.
trying to rack the brain. Did I watch
It was
It's
good.
Zach
and
Galifianakis and Robert Downey Jr.
The
and
funniest part in the whole movie is
Jamie
when
Foxx is in
Robert
it, too.
Downey Jr. spits in a dog's face. That was so. I felt so bad, but it was just the funniest thing I'd ever seen in a movie. He was just screaming at Zach Galifianakis while he's holding this dog, and the dog is just barking, and he's just like, and then he turns back around and he's right in the dog's face. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? It was so raw. I was like, oh my God, that just happened.
All right, you guys want to wrap this up?
Yeah,
Is
we're
the Chinese place still open next door?
You said till 9:30
It's
they're open,
8:30.
Oh yeah, you got an hour.
Got an hour.
Oh, sweet.
so it's 8:32, and we've been going for about
I
3
suggest
hours
the
and 10 minutes.
fried dumplings. They're fantastic.
Oh, that's a favorite.
They are good. I just learned about dumplings like 4 years ago, and I was like, how did I
Or
miss
just eat
this?
like 4 avocados. I gotta go get some more.
I
Avocados
just
are
bought a
great
new
for
bag
you.
today, so yeah,
You
I
should see how I eat them. It's fun.
he eats them
He
like
eats
a
them all.
barbarian. I cut them open and scoop it out like it's ice cream,
So I
but
cut
Jesse's
the
way is
top
great.
off and squeeze it into my mouth.
Really?
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
barbarian.
because it's like
great.
a gelatin in there.
Yeah, if you get a
And-
ripe one, right?
Yeah.
Until you squeeze.
I'm gonna have to try
time
that
in the
one
sea,
time.
Just,
Well, I take
How
the seed out. I
convenient.
take the seed out first. Yeah. And the
The pit of it, right?
the rind is so
tough.
tough
Like
that
leather?
it's like a cup. Like it doesn't break for a while.
I've tried to convince Erica to let me make her some like bikini tops with the
Avocado
avocado
bikini
avocado
top.
because I cut it right in half and then scoop the pit out and then just like I'm eating ice cream, eat it. And there was one day I had them and I was like, said to her, I was like, hey, wouldn't these be like perfect for like a bikini top? So you want to shoot the outro, Jesse?
Yeah. We what are we at? 3 hours 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the
3:11
longest
now.
video we've done so
Yeah,
far. It was a good
3:11 now.
Is that a
conversation.
good thing or a bad thing?
That's good. Yeah, that means we had a lot of things to talk about. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, tell your friends. YouTube, Twitter.
Rumble.
I gotta update that. Facebook, Rumble. We also gotta figure that out. Man, we're slacking.
We're only a couple months in. We'll get into it.
Yeah. But anything else anybody else wants to say? Or
Like, smash, subscribe, comment. Find us on social medias. Be a part of the conversation. Come down and talk with us. As you can tell, we can have fantastic conversations with just about anybody.
Just want to say thanks again for Nick.
yeah,
for
do you got
coming on.
Instagram or
If you-
Twitter? Anybody can follow you at? Or
If you are in the Elmira Corning area, don't forget to, if you need your car cleaned, check out First Class Auto Detailing, and he'll get you hooked up.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, really.
And if you want to give a shout out for your social media or anything for your business, or
Thank you for the shout out for the business, but if you want to like, follow, subscribe, engage, comment, it's City of Elmira Councilman, 1st District, Nick Grasso.
and I'll copy the link and send it to Jesse for when he uploads the video. We can put it in the description too. So
Cool.
For sure.
Thank you. That'll help.
all right. All right. Goodbye.
No, you get the intro. You're not having the outro like that, bro. No, absolutely not.
Goodbye.